Okay. Hello, hello, hello. I really need to get some overlays. I don't even think it would be difficult to get some, and I have not done it yet. Hold on. We've got a lot of stuff. Wait, hold on. Oh no, I didn't mean to do that actually. There's been a lot of stuff going on recently, man.
What if I told you?
No, not yet, John, not yet. Soon enough. Create post. I was gonna like announce that I was live and everything. This is like very sudden. I do this way too often where I don't announce that I'm going live ahead of time because I didn't even know I was going live. And yet here I am. Let's see. There it is. Couldn't think of what I was trying to say for a second. Okay. I'm alive! Surprise! No, I'm live. Reacting to some new Secret of the Mimic. I was gonna try to get the link for that. I hope everyone's doing well today. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. Oh, man. There was like, I think John FNAF just released a theory video as well as game theory at the exact same moment. And I can't handle that much theory, but we're gonna try to get to all of it. Okay. Also, I know I should probably change the thumbnail, but I'm not going to because I'm lazy. I'm being lazy. Does that go to this? Oh, it does. There I am. Oh no. Does that sound okay? Yeah, it sounds okay, I guess. I've been trying to... I know I'm talking really loud, or low anyways. I need to speak louder, actually. Let me probably get it a little bit closer, everything. I was trying to update mic stuff with OBS. Which actually, let me check on that. Yeah, all that's on there. I don't know if I have everything optimized specifically for my microphone because mine's a little bit different from what I was looking at. But we can tweak things, change it as we go. Talking about the volume. Everyone's doing well. Let me put on some pinned comments. Let's see. Talking about new FNAF. Yeah. There we go. So, last time we did a little bit of theory crafting, and that was honestly really fun. Like, we were just casually playing the game. Hey, it's Nightlen. How are you doing? You lost all terrible. But now, hey, you have zero competition. You have zero. There was nobody else. You have dominated all of it. If you want to, you can jump on this with me. I don't know how your internet's doing, but I'm gonna be watching some new Secret of the Mimic trailers. Not trailers. Theories that just came out, because Game Theory just dropped one Yeah, I'll check on Discord real quick. But Game Theory just dropped a theory, and hold on, here we go. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Here, let me make sure you're showing up on OBS.
On OBS, yeah. No, I haven't heard too many theories about Secret of the Mimic myself.
I think you're turned down low. Can you check and see? I don't know how you sound. I don't know how to check it, because I think I have you turned down.
I guess I could test this on this stream.
I just don't want to get an echo.
You can definitely can hear me. Let me see if there's an echo.
If
It's sort of hard to tell.
If I need to turn you up, I can.
I think it's fine.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it is I don't know where the community's head is with it, and I guess
all over the place.
Oh, all over the place.
All over the place. It's fun though. It's fun though. It's they're based on everything. So I've been trying to stay as blind, honestly, as possible whenever it comes to theories, because I don't like, I like having my own opinions, I guess, but like I understand, and I'm curious as to what everybody else is saying, but I've also like seen that like people have picked up on things that I haven't, and that's very interesting. There was like a short clip I was watching from Horoscope that was doing like a little like Easter eggs found in the game, and there was one thing there that was found that it's got my brain ticking a little bit.
Okay.
And funny enough, last time we got deep into the woods with Greek mythology, which is really fun.
We did.
We did with Artemis.
A strange turn.
It was okay, but it gets even stranger because there's a painting, and I don't know if I can actually like, I don't know. I think I have a screenshot, or at least I should have a screenshot of it. Let's see. Let me pull it up. Yeah, I do. This is a screen grabbed from Horoscoped videos. So there's like a classical painting that's hidden in the game. That's like I'm guessing just like an asset, but it's in the game and it's weird. Here, let me switch this over so you guys can see it. So this is the painting that I'm talking about. This is a painting that from 1782 by Angelica Kaufman. Interesting thing about this painting is of the Vestal Virgins. With the priest, they are a group of priestesses. I think that's right. Yeah, they're a group of priestesses, Roman priestesses. We went from Greek to Roman mythology, my friend, and they are worshippers of Vesta, which is like the goddess of like purity, but specifically associated with like a flame, like a fire, which is really interesting. Oh, you're getting all the YouTube studio stuff.
Oh yes, all the analytics.
All the analytics,
Now
which none of that's even like, it's not even showing anything important.
Exactly how much money you made from this stream.
There's no information about that. You need to
if
like
there's
it.
any lurkers, you have to
Like the video.
like the video.
Like the video.
I think it's just me though right now.
Hey, that's fine. That's fine.
It has a 100% like rate.
There you go. There you go. That's how it should be. But it's interesting because it's a little bit of weird lore here, because right, the Vestal Virgins are like priestesses who protect the eternal flame, which is Vesta. Like, Vesta is not just associated with the flame, she is in many connotations the fire. And there's a lot of like which is interesting for a number of reasons. And I know you're probably thinking to yourself like, why like for all the viewers or who watch the VOD or end up tuning in, they're like, why are you guys talking about Greek mythology and like Roman mythology? Because it's in the game.
It's important.
It's in there, and the flame is referred to as mother, which is really interesting because once again, it connects directly to Artemis, which was the Greek mythology reference we got last time, which is also a motherly figure. So it seems to all be like references to the mother being M1, but interestingly enough, the virgins are protectors of the mother. It's a cult. That's really interesting, because like that has implications. I think important ones for.
Well, I also wonder, because I'm not into the weeds as much as you. Is there two or three MXs?
I think that's what this. I think that's what this video is going to be about. It's going to be kind of discussing who Mexis is. I have a lot of thoughts on this topic, so I think that it might. And also, so we have the first one that they put out, which I kind of want to watch this first. This came out 2 weeks ago, and this I think is just like a general timeline discussion. And then John FNAF just released this, which this is a breakdown. I'm guessing this is like gonna be kind of normal formats for just like things that he's found. We'll see how deep in the woods it gets.
Yeah, I mean he solved the secret of the mimic. That's impressive.
Yeah, there you go.
I think it's polarizing. Oh, I also have like a slight question. Is that remix thing like a plugin thing that you have, or did YouTube change their?
Oh no, this is so it's a plugin for YouTubers. It allows like a lot of YouTubers, if you go on this, they'll see it. It's analytics. It's just analytics stuff. I mean, I don't have.
Oh, okay. I was just like, I haven't seen that before, and I was like,
yeah.
Man, do I need to update my browser or something?
It was released by a different YouTuber who like focuses on like helping other YouTubers succeed and stuff. Pretty interesting. I barely use it actually whenever it comes to like actually using it for analytical stuff, but it's there.
Yeah.
I guess do you want to just jump into this is the first one. We can just jump into it.
Yeah, jumping into the first one first makes a lot of sense.
Let me add you to,
because I also need to get caught up on all this.
Here, I went ahead and added you to the thing so they know who you are. Who's the disembodied voice?
The title. Yeah.
I said this.
Yes, we've done many collabs before.
Yes.
But I am Nightlen. I guess I did not do a proper introduction.
We just jumped in.
You're watching in the future.
Also, I kind of started the stream being like, I think I need to like, at this point, create like an overlay for my streams to be like. I'm just so bad whenever it comes to like I don't tell anyone that I'm streaming like everything that is. It's all my fault.
In a basic way, I think stream elements. It's pretty simple from what I remember.
It's
not having an overlay, like, it can be very samey. I don't think there's anything wrong with your scene. And I do like how you can switch between your face and the browser quite quickly. I think it's
I don't like staring at my face for too long though. I don't think anybody does. That's just that's just my insecurity stalking. That's my security breach.
I'm sorry to justify your insecurities by agreeing.
It's just I don't know.
More from the perspective, I don't like looking at my face for a prolonged period of time either.
We both got that insecurities. It's fine. We got the glitch trap virus, my friends. Let's go ahead and jump at this. I feel like this one was pretty like described as pretty like basic general outline of what the story is and everything. So this came out 2 weeks ago, and then we'll jump into the other one.
Yeah, how should we watch this together? Because I'll hear like constant echoes if I watch it through the stream.
Do you want me to
you could just send me a link, or I don't know.
Can I
when you pause.
Is it gonna mess things up if I like share it in Discord?
I don't think so. Though.
I can, yeah, I can just.
Depends on how strong our internet is.
It should be okay. We'll see how this all goes, and if it causes issues, we can fix them.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on the stream.
Okay. We're done. Okay. Oh, also I have to watch for some reason my scene selection keeps changing randomly.
Do you have it like assigned to a hotkey?
Yes. But I think it's been doing it for the last.
I've used like the little squiggle one on the
That's what I typically
left
use.
hand side near the top.
Well,
yeah. I feel like it's something you can't accidentally press.
I use that for like the record button, and then I use the slash question mark, I think, for scene selection, which it's not as common. I don't really like, but I don't know. We'll see. I'll make sure that I'll.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me, because I should be watching this. Okay, here we go.
It is finally here, and it changes everything. Our understanding of the books, our understanding of the timeline, and our understanding of the characters we've come to know over the last 11 years. But as always, I'm here to pull an Afton, or an Edwin, as it turns out, and put it all back together.
Uh-oh.
I like the
Hello,
in-game
Internet!
references.
Welcome to
Very
Game
good.
Theory, the
Yes.
show that's jaw has been hanging open like a badly made Chica costume ever since the release of FNAF's Secret of the Mimic. And I'm not
me
alone
too.
in that feeling. Every single YouTuber has been completely sideswiped by this game. Chica! I can't believe we got Chica!
Also, if we do need to pause, you can just tell me. Like, just you might have to. It is kind of loud. I might need to. I want to make sure because I know it probably is. I don't know how loud it is. I'm really bad whenever it comes to understanding the OBS function. I just like mess with settings for my mic, to like add filters and stuff.
Yeah. I just went back in the stream. I definitely would up the audio on that.
Oh, up the audio?
For the video, yeah.
Oh, okay. Wait, which one is it running on? Okay, it's running on that one. Okay. I can turn it up. There we go.
Hey! Oh! Oh my god, there she is! That's insane!
Why has it taken us all by surprise? Well, besides the fact the game actually works, mostly, it also did something that is completely unheard of in a FNAF game. They actually gave us a story. And I don't mean the super cryptic kind of...
Well, they did that technically for
I feel like
Ruin.
that's...
They did that technically
I feel like that's
for
like an
Ruin.
oversimplification.
Also,
I mean,
FNAF
it depends
4
on like how... Yeah, FNAF 4
was pretty simple as far as like foundational
the only
story.
thing that trips you up about FNAF 4 is the fact that the game so heavily implies that this is the bite of 87 and it's the bite of 83.
I mean,
but
does it though? Yes, it did, and it's like leading up teasing, but maybe that was enough. I don't know. I mean, it's fair.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's fair.
I feel like Security Breach also, it has a convoluted story, but it still has a story there that I don't feel like you need to watch a game theory video to sort of understand.
Yeah, I think that the biggest problem with like most of the story, like even FNAF 6 has a pretty digestible story. It pretty much tells you everything at the end of like what's going on. I think the difference is that like in the same way that like FNAF 1 story was seen as like very basic to start with because that was it and that was all there is. FNAF, like Secret of the Mimic is I know we're immediately pausing, but like the Secret of the Mimic is a product of like 3 or 4 different like games / DLCs that have come up since it, and I feel like it would not be as necessarily as deep, although I think that's the difference is like it stands on its own as a good story, but it also doesn't make sense unless you really like you kind of question like why are we here, and I think that it does a good job of tying it into like answering that question. in a really concise manner. With Security Breach, I think that answer wasn't answered, or that question wasn't answered.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, I have to agree, considering the
We
original like true ending seems to have been changed. So like,
yeah,
I don't know how anybody can really disagree at this point.
which Scott has said publicly that the story of Security Breach was heavily changed and was not the intended story that he wanted it to be, and that they did have to do like heavy retcons for like Ruin and stuff and everything going forward, because there was just a lot of things that were like supposed to be set up in certain ways that weren't, and so it did make it feel that way. But it was due to miscommunication that like Steelwool wasn't trusted with the story. They just had to kind of guess. It was kind of a weird situation in a way, but I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, that I mean, it's a tricky thing whenever you take a step back, but we're still very involved on.
Also, is this like a cipher?
What
is
things
this?
you piece together.
What is
I think
it's
we
just
just
changing
pause
text.
at a weird moment. Yeah,
It's kind of interesting. Oh, it's just the
transition.
okay.
Years and years figuring out. I mean the
It's
kind
actually a
that
secret
actually
ARG.
helps us move
Could be,
forward
could
in
be.
this franchise. For a long time, the community has been frustrated with the lack of clarification out there for this series. It's been years of theory upon theory upon theory. And while we have come to certain agreements for parts of it, there are still massive sections of the lore that we haven't been able to agree on simply because there's never really been a solid foundation to jump off of. But now, after 11 years of this franchise, Secret of the Mimic came as the earliest entry in the FNAF timeline and said, guys, I got you. Giving us relatively clear breakdowns of how the early years of Fazbear came to be, as well as throwing a bunch of hand cranks into the works that make us question everything we knew about this franchise. There's timelines that have been displaced, character personas completely shattered, and understandings of where the future of this franchise is going totally flipped on its head. And I intend to theorize about all of it in a 3-part series across the next month or so, focusing on the 3 main characters from this new game: the newcomer Edwin Murray and his family, the big bad Mimic, and, of course, Fazbear Entertainment, William Afton and Henry. All of that will then be followed up with a live talkback with a bunch of other FNAF theorists to discuss the game, our differing theories, and generally just talking about the franchise that we've all enjoyed for so long. Dates for that are TBD right now, so make sure you're subscribed so that when I do announce it, you'll be the first to know.
I think
That might be
he
interesting.
I think he already did. At least as far as I'm aware, that already happened, like the main talkback. But I have not watched that, so I'm not sure. But this was 2 weeks ago, and I think maybe actually that was before. So maybe this is referring to like a different thing. I don't know.
And to make sure you don't miss all of the crazy theories leading up to it, because believe me, you don't want to miss them. There are some real bombshells in this game that I want to explore. But for now, let's start from the beginning. We jump into the game as a lowly mechanic working for the wonderful, as always, Fazbear Entertainment. Our name is Arnold, and
It's the
we've
best
just
company.
gotten off of a 36-hour shift, only to be called in for one last job to help
One
recover
last
some
job.
Fazbear assets from one of their contractors, Edwin Murray. Begrudgingly, we head to Murray's costume manor, only to discover the asset is a set of blueprints for a killer animatronic endoskeleton that can fit into any
Homicidal
costume and
tendencies.
learn the role of any character or person, the Mimic. We gain access to different areas of the facility by upgrading our data diver with different permissions, from basic to security, repair, all the way up to executive privileges, all while trying to outrun or outweight the Mimic.
It's another security
Eventually, we
breach.
get our hands on the blueprints, only to discover that it wasn't.
Another security breach in what way? Like with the
I mean, we're with us like getting all the access to the different things that we're not supposed to,
yeah.
because like with the end of the game, like we were intercepted from the beginning. I don't remember if the game explains how you get intercepted by the Mimic, how it like takes over the walkie-talkie voice.
That's an interesting thing, because it's the implication is that like the Mimic has the ability, and this is one of those things that was like previously like specifically laid out. Also, hello, Tails the Foxer 92. It's me, Tails. Hello there, Tails.
Hello,
Welcome to the
Tails.
streams. we're actually, funny enough, that reminds me of Tales of the Pizzaplex, which is what I was about to talk about. Thank you for that segue. Uh, but anyways, it's specifically laid out in the books that the mimic is able to communicate specifically with radios. Like that's something like specified, like in the books and the epilogues, when he's chasing a bunch of like teens that are stuck in the like ruins of the FNAF 6 location, he's like using radios to like communicate with them, which is really interesting. So like that seems to be something that's consistent with this as well, where it's like the mimic is able to communicate via the radio frequencies, which we have in our car. So the dispatch is using that same technology.
Yeah, I guess it's a recurring thing because it also happened in Ruined. But
Yes.
I just wonder why. Like, why was it designed like that to be able to
I think
interact with radio waves?
Because it's specifically tied to frequencies, and it seems to be like playing off the whole like it's a ghost, so that it in a similar way to like, you know, how like classic ghosts are said to like communicate through frequencies, like through radio waves, and you can hear it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
Are you planning to get the new Jazzwares FNAF merch? I have like, I don't actually, I know Jazzwares is working on it, but I don't really have too much FNAF merch except for like books, unfortunately. Like not even Hex. I know that's like a major like disappointment as like a FNAF fan. Like the fact that I don't have like a bazillion plushies, unfortunately. Even though that I would love it. I think so. Oh no.
Yeah.
Nightlen,
Yeah,
are you
sure.
You're getting out chatted. How you're chatting with me too much. Oh no, you're losing your spot. You gotta grind out.
Spot, no.
Gotta grind out the XP. But no, that's a good call out. It is intentionally, I think, supposed to be like Security Breach in a lot of ways. Not only because it's like a way that they can like kind of redeem themselves for Security Breach and like the glitchy mess that started off as. I do think that like Security Breach now is probably a lot more enjoyable than it probably was. I need to like play it again.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things. I remember it's probably like the one game that my brother felt like he got very burnt on because he spent like $40 of birthday money for a game where like you'd fall out of the map every like 10 minutes.
It wasn't
at the
good.
Start. Though I don't think it's still that bad. No, I think it's still broken but playable.
Yeah, it's still definitely got some issues, but like just like this game too, I think it's gonna be a lot better in VR. I'm really excited actually for this to come out in VR, because I have a Meta Quest. Is it even called a Meta Quest anymore? Is it like it's? Oh no! It is a Meta Quest. It used to be Oculus, I think.
Oh, okay.
Is that?
Yeah. There was Oculus Rift for VR in the past. Yeah, right.
Which I think so. But I have like a like Meta Quest 2. And that I haven't used it in a long while. I'd have to dust it off. But
no, that was pretty cool. The only time I've experienced VR was whenever you were in town, and
that was really
I briefly
fun.
played Help Watcher. It was very interesting, very spooky.
Help Wanted 2 is something that I need to replay to get the sweet lore connections, because it's very clear that this Help Wanted 2 was meant to like set up Secret of the Mimic in like a big way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, let's keep trucking with this one. Let's see.
Fazbear talking to us through dispatch. It was the mimic pretending to be them to get their hands on the data.
This is just going to be like a
This
recap.
leads to one of 3 endings where we either escape and get killed by the mimic, we escape and get killed by the mimic, or we fix the mimic and then just stand there watching it sleep. Now, these guys deserve an episode of their own because whichever one is canon could have massive implications that I just don't have time to get into right now. Instead, let's turn our attention to the stuff we can discover during the game.
Foxy the Pirate. I was going to ask, but I wasn't sure. But that makes sense. I get you. Well, welcome back to the stream.
Foxy the Pirate. Okay.
Foxy the Pirate.
Interesting.
Now, Tails
Definitely
the Foxer.
a classic.
Very good.
The first of our big three characters, Edwin Murray. If you're a longtime viewer of this channel, or you're one of the people who understands my pain and has actually read the books, then that name isn't...
Me, I've done it. I have come out the other side. I have read the books. I have played these games before.
I've read these books before.
I have read these books before. I am a robot. Yes, I've read the books. I've read the books a lot.
The question in the FNAF fandom is not who is a robot, it's truly who isn't.
That is so true. That is so unfortunately true right now. We need to watch T Dread's God David theory, or not T Dread's. Who was it? Was it I'm trying to think because they're all in like. I've been watching like there's a bunch of FNAFers who like oftentimes collaborate, and I'm trying to think. I think it's T Dread, who's doing the God David one, which is a crazy name. But the idea that like David's consciousness has been like transferred into the minds of like everybody. Like the crying child is David. Like the crying child is contains the M2 virus or whatever, and then Gregory does as well, which I do tend to. I have questions, I guess, about that.
I mean, I wouldn't rule it out, though. I will say it is a little bit weird, you know, to conceptualize that.
It is.
Though, I mean, we have Fazgoo, so what's not on the table?
Don't disrespect Fazgoo, okay? Fazgoo is great.
And time traveling ball pit.
Okay, the time traveling ball pit.
Technically time travel, but
memory travel, whatever you want to call it. It's all good.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to Edwin Murray. Back to
anything new. Edwin Murray is a character that we were introduced to in both the Storyteller and the Mimic from the Tales from the Pizza Place.
This is whenever he jumps up and down, and like Tom's like, "I'm free. The books aren't canon," even though it's still canon, guys. There's a difference between continuity and canon. Like canon means it's official to the universe. It's acknowledged by the creator as a part of like the greater universe. Continuity means that it's in line with the games. Anyways, we paused every 5 seconds for.
Well, I mean, every good reaction, you know, you have to add. You have to add commentary, you know.
What?
Yeah, because if it's just your face, then it's not a reaction.
Oh my goodness, that is so true. I just was expecting to like look at OBS and realize that it was on my face the entire time.
Series. His company was bought out by Fazbear. He created the Mimic to babysit his son David, but his son tragically died. And because the Mimic kept mimicking his dead son, he beat the thing up, teaching it violence, and then showed up 40 years later trying to stop it. However, when the Secret of the Mimic's creative director Evan Lampe said to Dorco,
"If you've read the books, you don't know the full story,"
he wasn't kidding. The story of Edwin goes so much deeper and is so much more tragic than we could have ever realized. As Arnold explores Murray's costume manor, we can find audio recordings and mailboxes containing digital text logs that give us the real story of what happened to this place. It was originally owned by Edwin's father, who we'll call Murray Sr. Edwin Murray works for him.
Edwin.
He looks like a classic, like Victorian, not Victorian, but it looks like a 1920s industrialist. My name is Edwin. Made the Mimic.
Yeah.
It was difficult to put the pieces together, but unfortunately something went so wrong. Now I can do nothing but sing this stupid song. I had to.
Yes.
Thank you, Tails the Foxer. That is muchly appreciated, and yes, I am Edwin. Not just saying that, I am. I am M2 reborn as the persona of Edwin. I'm locked into the Inventor.
You are Edwin. That's amazing.
Anyways, that was fun.
Edwin Murray. This is my dad's place.
You know, because nepotism. But Edwin is the quirky inventor type, and to test out his new voice recorder creation, he seeks out one of the new employees and former puppeteer.
I love that he's using like this the classic. It's actually a really nice recorder. That's not from the 70s. I think that it's implied that the recording device is the tape recordings that we find throughout. That is the machine that he developed, seemingly. Maybe not. I think so. No, because it would be the tape cartridges that we use to hear the messages. I think that's the technology he kind of developed. Anyways.
Excuse me, can I borrow your voice for a project?
Oh, what for? I don't even know you. I'm brand new here. Let's start again. I'm Fiona.
Murray Sr. then passes away and leaves the whole thing to Edwin, who rebrands everything to bring his wacky inventions to life.
Maybe rebrand? We could start making some of my inventions for real.
Together with Fiona, they invent a bunch of wild tech, like a coffee machine that can learn your coffee preferences to make the perfect cup, a coat hanger that can adjust to any size you need, and an adorable vacuum cleaner. Oh, just look at him with his tiny little brooms and his little dumpy. Anyway, alongside this, he is also making a bunch of costumes, which I suppose makes sense given that's the name of the business. But the characters we see are interesting if you're a FNAF fan. We see a handful of characters that you might recognize, like Pirate and Cowgirl Roxy, Hillbilly Monty, a puppet pirate Foxy, and the big one, a rollerblading costume of Chica.
It is. That's freaking Chica.
Let's party.
She really was the first, wasn't she? But besides Chica, who Edwin and Fiona were specifically hired to make for a client, Chica's Party World, yes, that Chica's Party World, all of these other characters were rentable or purchasable from Murray's Costume Manor, meaning Edwin owned these characters. They weren't originally Fazbear's. However, Fazbear was around as another one of Edwin's clients, taking interest in his technological genius, even to the point where Edwin refers to Henry as simply Hen in the audio logs, presumably because they have a level of familiarity.
Because Henry can never be stated in its entirety for some reason. Like, we've gotten HRY abbreviated for, like, Henry in FNAF 6. We don't even get to hear his actual name. Like, gosh darn it, Scott, why can't you just say Henry? You can't say William Afton either, you have to say W.A. Yeah, like, this franchise is incapable of actually saying the proper name of the characters in the actual game. Except for Edwin Murray. Edwin Murray is he's constantly given his full,
or William Afton.
His full John Hancock is always on there. It's Edwin Murray, but we can't get Henry. We got Hen, which I get. It's fun, but it's fun because you could like. Scott could like pull like a little funny thing and be like, his name's actually not Henry, and it's actually like something.
Oh, that's just a nickname.
It's just something else entirely random. It'd be really funny.
And friendship thanks to their shared technological creativity.
Do you want the FNAF timeline to finish? Are you talking about this video? Because we've only been here for 7 minutes, but we have been talking and yapping a whole lot. I will say, do I want the story to end? It won't. I don't think it will. I mean, Stillwell has said that it will last as long as Star Wars does, and I mean, I feel like that will.
Well, Star Wars is
Disney will never let it go.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, different topic.
I mean, who knows? But it's going to be around for a long time. That's another way to put it.
I mean, it's clear that we've got games coming out in the future at some point. Yeah, so I mean, the FNAF goes far through the story. Yeah, I think that because you're gonna end up with the same issues that we're having now, where it's like, I think that if they focus on what they're doing here with the quality of the story being like this, I want to see them continue. Because I want to continue to see them grow and learn, like, specifically Scott, like, his way of telling stories. And you can tell that, like, doing the books and, like, writing and getting it all out there with all of his, like, crazy, wacky ideas has helped him as, like, a creator so much in, like, being able to learn how to flesh out a story, how to tell a story in effective ways, to be able to add emotion and have it be effective. through the different like mediums that he's using with like the FNAF movies, learning a lot. It's like you can clearly tell that Scott is somebody who learns from their mistakes and will continue to improve on that and reiterate. So like
I think FNAF World is a great example of that.
yes.
Yes, he really took the criticism to heart.
Yeah.
And the FNAF movie too. I'm very excited for that because I think the first one was excellent. So the way of storytelling, the way I look at FNAF is, it's like our generation's Goosebumps. It's like what Goosebumps was for our parents.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think that's
how I look at it.
Which Goosebumps was terrible. Used to be terrifying. Based on everything I've seen from it, it used to be, my goodness. And like, I think FNAF, I really hope that Scott looks at the success of Secret of the Mimic, because it does seem to be overall a success just based on the fandom that it's like generated. Because I'm looking on YouTube, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this, there have been so many creators who have come out of the woodworks from like random places, just mainline channels, that have just started making FNAF videos and talking about Secret of the Mimic because the story connected or interested them. So it's like, you can tell that this is definitely, there's definitely a lot of people who are like, oh, it's bad and I don't really like it personally, and that's fine. I don't think that's an issue, but like, they're still making videos on it, which means that they cared enough about it to do that. So it's like, you're still getting a glimpse of this franchise is still very much alive, which I think is... Security Breach wasn't a failure, which is weird. It was one of the most successful FNAF games ever. It sold 2 million copies. It is the most widely sold game outside of the first FNAF game, because it was a free roam game. So regardless of the glitches and everything, the fact that like still took that and was like, we can still improve on this even after it being such a wide success, I think is a good testament to them as a studio.
Yeah, for sure.
They saw their limitations, and I think Secret of the Mimic is a good step forward. Not all the way perfect, but we're getting there, and I'm excited. I hope the next game is Fall Fest. I really hope, because I don't think we need...
I think too,
Security
more
Breach
linear.
2 yet.
Yeah, I think the
no
more
worries.
linear sort of style is a little bit better too whenever it comes to horror, because like the free roam of Security Breach, I think it did more harm than good.
No, sorry, real quick. No worries, Tales the Foxer. Thank you for coming in. No, thank you. I'll see you.
Oh yes, bye bye, Tells the Fox, or Foxy the Pirate.
Foxy the Pirate. But yeah, no, what you were saying is true. Did you have more, or?
No, yeah, that's about what I
okay.
had to say.
Sorry, no, my brain was like split, so I didn't hear everything that you were saying. Unfortunately, I was.
I mean the gist of it was just, I feel like Security Breach, the scope was too big, and I think these smaller scale projects just work better whenever it comes to creating a more horrifying atmosphere.
No, 100%. I mean, that they went with that for Secret of the Mimic, and they succeeded 100%. I think that like Security Breach 2 was much bigger than Scott even wanted it to be. Like, Scott was kind enough to accommodate what they were, like their vision, but it was not supposed to be that big at all.
Yeah.
But let's see. We should continue watching this.
I got the change order from Hen last night. They don't think of me as a friend anymore.
But the real tragedy of Edwin comes from when we looked at his family. I've mentioned his wife Fiona, but he also has a son named David, just like he did in the Tales from the Pizzaplex book series. Unlike that series though, Fiona doesn't die in childbirth. She's still around during David's early years, until she tragically passes away, leaving Edwin to run the business and raise David all on his own, leading Edwin to come up with the only logical solution: build an animatronic that can babysit David. Obviously, he creates the M1 mimic. But something strange happens. It begins to not just look after David, but mimic Edwin's dead wife, Fiona. The family is back together again, until it's not. One day, David dies outside the facility, leaving Edwin completely devastated. At the same time, the business is completely crumbling around him. But M1 Fiona has a solution: make another one of her.
Edwin, you can't put it off any longer. You need to try again. Build another.
Make another mimic that would now mimic David so that they could be together again. Edwin isn't convinced at first, but eventually he gives in. He takes M1 out of the endoskeleton, copies the program, and creates M2, putting the new program into the endoskeleton. And it works. M2 begins acting like David, but it's too much for Edwin to handle, and he snaps, beating the animatronic, breaking its legs, and teaching it the valuable lesson of violence that Arnold now gets to experience firsthand. With that failure under his belt and the business still struggling, Edwin locks himself away with his final Fazbear project, a restaurant called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. But M2 has other plans. It destroys the house, and Edwin is never seen or heard from again. It's a real sad ending, but you see what I mean about how it upends a lot of what we thought we knew. We've got characters we thought were Fazbears now.
What did it... Wait, hold on. Let me go back.
Locks himself away with his final Fazbear project, a restaurant called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. But M2 has other plans. It destroys...
It's not Freddy's. It's not a physical location. It's a concept. I
think we're right on that.
No, it's R&D, it's research and development. It's just Edwin, like, rigging it together so that he can have an idea of where everything should go. It's the restaurant business, so it's like he's planning out how the franchise is going to look, all the decorations. Like, they didn't just sell costumes, they sold everything. So it's like they're planning out how what the concept art's going to be, like, you know, the design of the building, how the layout should be, like everything like that. So that's just like an image of that. And I mean, I get what he's saying, though. I get what he's saying. But it is not a restaurant called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. It isn't a physical location. It's not the physical one. It's just a development and researching R&D of it. But also, I'm not sure M2 is responsible for what happened at the end. But that is a possibility. It's a theory.
The house, and Edwin is never seen or heard from again. It's a real sad ending, but you see what I mean about how it upends a lot of what we thought we knew. We've got characters we thought were Fazbears now created by someone else. We've got a wild...
Note about that, this is interesting. The books set this up. The books directly set up that Edwin was working on the Fazbear project. We did not know it. We thought it was just a weird, like, one-off of, like, why are these characters here? But Edwin is described as working on Chica, Foxy, Bonnie, those three characters specifically, which is really interesting. It also kind of negates the fact that, like, these characters were necessarily, like, stolen from Edwin, because Edwin was specifically licensing them out. Yes, they were stolen later, but, like, these were concepts that were going to be used for the Fazbear project, and according to the contract, if it failed, it was owned by Fazbear Entertainment regardless. So, like, you know, they already had concepts of Chica and Bonnie and Freddy. Freddy and then Foxy. So it's like
Freddy,
in the
Bonnie,
books,
yeah.
It's just interesting. The books set that up and we didn't even realize it. Because it's hard to, like, visualize exactly what you're reading. But yes, that is exactly what he was working on in the books, was the Fazbear project, which is cool. It's very interesting that it kind of set that up. But anyways, just side tangent.
Yeah, for sure.
totally different setup to Edwin and his family than we saw in the books, and this is just the top level stuff that's been given to us on a plate. The more you dig into these things, the more things begin to change and shift our understanding of the entire franchise. But we've got some time, so let's keep things simple for now. We've been given a bunch of information about Edwin, his family, and his company. But what is the timeline of these events? This is FNAF after all. Timelines are a staple for FNAF theorists everywhere. And I don't just mean a vague order of events. I mean cold, hard dates. Well,
thankfully, this game actually gives it to you. Like, this game actually gives you a pretty clear timeline.
Yeah,
of
you don't
everything.
have to guess, which it's surprising for a FNAF game, considering, you know,
it gives you
we've
a
had
lot to work
put
with.
in the work since FNAF 2 on when things are happening.
Yeah, there's a really good graphic that shows like it establishes that they've been around for at least since 1965, which is interesting. So
It is also interesting just how much more advanced technology is in the FNAF universe compared to our own, and just like how advanced their technology must be in present day, considering they had all of this in the 1970s.
Well, there's a lot of futuristic tech in even Security Breach with like the AR and like VR world and like the holograms, and it gets really sci-fi very quickly. The books even kind of show more of a light on that, of like how all of that works, and it's really interesting because it's interesting because in this world, like the supernatural and like technology have such a direct tie. It's really interesting. So it's absolutely, it's definitely going for a very interesting like retro futuristic vibe. It's pretty cool. Are you good to?
as you might expect,
Oh, hold on.
this game is
Yeah, I'm good
pretty
to
careful
continue.
to leave those sorts of details hidden, only giving us months or days for dates at best. They even block out years so we can't place exact details. But when has that ever stopped us before? Let's start with
Well, I mean, that says 1975 or maybe 1970, but there's like a smudge there. I guess it could be multiple things, but it looks like 1975. Although this is a funny letter, actually.
the very first teaser for this game. In it, we saw the number 1979 showing up on a film reel, giving us a pretty good indication that that was when this game would take place. And once we boot up the game, that does seem to still be the case. In Arnold's van, we come across his work order to collect an endoskeleton from Murray's Costume Manor. The job he is literally on. That work order contains both an issue date and a signing date, which both end up being the same date, September 7th, 1979. I suppose that means that the Mimic not only faked Dispatch's voice, but also sent a fake work order? And wait, does that mean that Arnold has a fax machine hidden in this van? What other mysteries does this van hold? Oh, Arnold, you teasing enigma. So, okay, we have the end of our timeline for this game, but as I've kind of already mentioned, that's like the least interesting part of this game's story. We're really here for the Edwin Murray drama. But don't worry, I think we can figure that one out too, thanks to FNAF's longest running trope. Dead kids. Well, kid, specifically his son, David Murray. Wait, you're not David Murray. You're Jafufu, the newest S-ranked agent from today's sponsor, Zenless Zone Zero.
Sponsor.
Zenless Zone Zero is a hugely popular action RPG set in a future rewards. Thanks again.
Respect towards sponsorship, but I don't feel the obligation to watch.
Yeah, sponsor us. Yeah, sponsor us.
To Zenless Zone Zero for sponsoring this video, but now I
Great
really
Shadow
gotta tell
Legends.
you about the timeline of David Murray.
Message
At
me.
the end of the game, you're given a choice. Either give the data diver back or execute something called parachute.exe. This opens up a hatch in the floor leading to the R&D department and the Murray's house that's on top of the hill near the factory. While trying to avoid M2, you can come across 5 film reels showing some good old-fashioned Murray family home video for David's birthdays. The first is a little uneventful. He gets scared by a new Pirate Roxy puppet and is given his iconic white tiger plushie. The
That's Foxy. That's not Roxy, is it?
puppet and is given his
It's not Roxy. It's Foxy. Unless I'm wrong about that. That could be. I thought it was. I think it's a Foxy plush.
Iconic white tiger plushie. The second, Edwin misses because he's too busy working. The third, Edwin breaks the news to David that Mummy isn't coming back. By the fourth, we see Edwin give David his slide that we see out the front of Murray's Costume Manor, with the robotic voice of M1 Fiona coming from off screen. And then finally, we get number 5, where we see Fiona in all her mimicky animatronic glory. She made a cake for David's birthday and is asked to go outside and collect David before the party gets started. And it's that last video that is crucial to solving this mystery. When M1 Fiona presents her cake, we can see the room she's in, and it's not the Murray's family home like all the others. This is actually an office inside Murray's Costume Manor. And we know that because if you're willing to spend a lot of time avoiding rollerblading Chica, you actually get to see this room firsthand, complete with all the same decorations.
Oh my gosh. Happy birthday, David.
The place looks abandoned. The food has been there a while, now all molded over. And we find out why, thanks to the text logs that we have to collect to figure out the password for this room. On December 1st, Edwin sends out a work memo telling the workers that they need to be here on Saturday for David's party. Then there's a bunch of more light-hearted, jokey messages between the other employees about the room code, but on the 6th, the tone shifts. A message tells everyone that the party has been cancelled due to recent tragic events. With the state of the room, the notices we find about not bringing children to work, and the fact that the playground Edwin refers to must be the play park he got David for one of his birthdays, the one near the loading bay, the one he was warned would be too dangerous to have a kid near.
Look, I get your concern. I do. But they're all just groundlings. This is the perfect spot for David's playground.
It all adds up to this being the day that David died. On Saturday, December 6th, everyone was there gathered together just like Edwin had asked, only for M1 to go down to find David and report him dead.
Okay, everyone hide. Fiona, go get him.
Saturday was the day of the party, and that cancellation message was sent out the same day. December 6th was only on a Saturday once in the 1970s. 1975. Now, given we have 5 film reels, you'd assume that would make this David's 5th birthday. And so his date of birth would be December 6th, 1970. However, I'm not entirely sure that's the case. Firstly, the achievement you get for entering David's party room is called Belated Birthday, and the icon is of a birthday cake with not 5 candles, but 6. And I think we all know that when you're a kid, the number of candles on your cake matters big time. I guess just like content creators, we all like seeing number go up. There's also the matter of the collectibles scattered throughout MCM. By gathering them all, you can boot up a minigame on the computers known as moon.exe. This thing is full of interesting details and symbolism that we will 100% be exploring in the future, but the detail that's interesting right now is the collectible called the Full Fest Snow Globe. When you find it again inside moon.exe, you can give it a shake, and we're given this description. Opening day snow globe. A wonderful day with all of us at Full Fest. It's worth noting that right behind this snow globe is a statue of a married couple. The man wears a bow tie, which is something we see associated with Edwin throughout the game. I mean, just look at the guy's logo. He loves bow ties.
Bow ties are cool.
This couple is supposed to be Edwin and Fiona, and so this line about Full Fest is tied to them. But the use of the word all here is telling. If it was just supposed to be Edwin and Fiona, it would have just said both of us or the two of us. But all implies a group, i.e. David is also present. Thanks to Help Wanted 2, the earliest Full Fest we know about happened in 1970. So for this to be a big opening day to the point where Fazbear creates a special snow globe, it's likely that it's that year being referenced, 1970. And if Scott cares at all about giving this series any kind of logical consistency, Fall Fest would likely have to happen in the autumn. Fine, fall. With David's birthday being established as December 6th, it would be physically impossible for him to also be here on the opening day of Fall Fest in 1970, because he wouldn't have been born for another couple of months. So he'd have to have been born at least a year earlier, making him at minimum 6. But then why only show us 5 videos? What happened to the missing birthday? Well, we already know that Edwin is too busy to focus on his kid, hence he made the mimic in the first first place, would it be out of the realm of possibility that he was so busy he didn't even celebrate one of his kids' birthdays? The game certainly seems to think so, because inside the Storytime showroom you can find David's little den with all of his drawings on the wall, and one of them depicts a birthday with David surrounded not by family but by characters, and he has a cake with 4 candles on it. Up until now, David's parties have always been at his house, surrounded by family, not by characters. We never see a video of him having a birthday surrounded by characters, which implies that this is a birthday not caught on camera. Edwin missed his son's 4th birthday. He was so busy trying to save the company and possibly even building M1 that he got his staff to dress up as characters and look after him instead. Then, a year later, David gets his big slide and suddenly M1 Fiona exists to take care of David. This puts David's 6th birthday in 1975, and therefore his date of birth is actually December 6th, 1969. Nice. From here we can actually extrapolate a few other dates and start to put things into a rough timeline. We never get exact ages for Edwin and Fiona, but we do know that David was their first and only child. In the late 60s and early 70s, the average age of first-time parents was 21.4 years old. And looking at marriages in the late 1960s, the average man was 23, while the average woman was about 20 when they got married.
The book tells us that he was 20. Well, it's a bit different on the timeline for the books. It's as far as I'm aware, because of the differences in events, but it seems to imply that they got married in like at the end of college. And Edwin is like, I think that it's implied to be like whenever he was in, like he was 20. So yeah, that does make sense. He would be around there. I think he's a little bit older in the games than he was in the books.
I'm not sure you can really extrapolate much from the average, though, you know, outside of the books.
It's just conjecture. I mean, it's assumption. Yeah, it's speculative. Yeah. It's doesn't really, I don't really think it even really does much for us, though.
These averages, that would mean they pretty much had David just over a year after getting married, putting their wedding,
which is, it does align with the books. That is true.
In 1968. On top of that, the average length of an engagement for a couple in the 1960s was around just 3 to 6 months, with the ideal scenario being a fall engagement with a spring or summer wedding, and most would only have been dating for 6 months prior to that. So Fiona and Edwin most likely would have gotten engaged in the fall of 1967 and probably only started dating earlier that year. But as I've already told you, this relationship ends far too prematurely. One of the audio logs we find throughout the facility is a voice recording left by Fiona to Edwin explaining that she needs to go to one of their clients' events to make sure nothing goes wrong.
I have to go help the Fall Fest crew. I just have this terrible feeling like I need to be there so nothing goes wrong.
Now, remember that part of Moon.exe I mentioned earlier that shows us the married couple? The one representing Edwin and Fiona with the Fall Fest snow globe at their feet? Well, the woman's statue is described as being burnt and blackened. There's also a stall nearby that focuses on sewing materials, like a stand for someone who was maybe there to help with costumes and puppeteering, similar to what we know Fiona was capable of. That stand is also completely burnt down and destroyed. Putting all of that together, it clearly tells us that the event Fiona went to was Fall Fest, the Fazbear Carnival we've been theorizing about for so long. And just as we've been predicting, it absolutely did end in fire, taking Fiona's life with it. Edwin breaks this news to David on his 3rd birthday, and as we've established, Fall Fest should happen in the fall just before that. So that puts Fiona's death sometime between September and November 1972. So right now
really
our timeline looks like this. Edwin and Fiona start dating in early 1967. They then get engaged in the fall of that year, which I'm now only just realizing might explain why they're in wedding outfits in Moon.exe. They're next to the Fall Fest snow globe. It's the same time of year, almost as if they're going to Fall Fest like some kind of anniversary celebration. Anyway, they get married in 1968 and have David in 1969. A few years passed, and in the fall of 1972, Fiona goes to Fall Fest and dies in a fire. Edwin then creates the Mimic over the next couple of years. But on the day of David's 6th birthday in
Fire just can't
1975,
kill anybody
David
in this
dies
series.
outside the facility. Edwin falls into a pit of despair. He tries to bring back David as M2, but gets angry, beats it up, and disappears, leaving M2 to roam the facility and Fazbear to grow impatient with Edwin's lack of deliverables, and so they send in Arnold to take what is theirs in September 1979. But there is one more date we're able to track thanks to all of this. The death of Murray Sr. Now, look, I know he may not seem like an important character in all of this. Let's be honest, he's kind of a footnote in the whole game. We only see his portrait a couple of times, and we only get 2 audio logs even mentioning him. But those 2 audio logs reveal a lot. Not only about when he died, but also the final order of events for Murray's costume manor. And an interesting detail about our favorite singing bear company. In the audio log where we learn about Murray Sr.'s passing, it's a conversation between Edwin and Fiona. So they do have to have at least met at this point. Plus, they seem quite close.
The company is going to collapse and they're all going to hate me.
And you'll figure it out. Just take a deep breath. It's
I
your
think
company
it's
now. Your dad believes
pretty well
in you.
implied
Otherwise, he
that
wouldn't
they're
have
in
left
a
you.
relationship.
She's
at this
being
point.
encouraging in the way that a supportive partner would and should. So they're most likely, at least...
To be fair, that is just kind of her personality, for at least how it's kind of laid out in the games. That is just her personality. But I do get what he's saying. It is pretty well established, I think.
Yeah, I
dating
agree.
when
I
he
definitely got
passes.
that
But the
impression.
real key comes from when you backtrack through the entire game to find this specific Mr.
Aw.
Helpful. I mentioned earlier how we get new permissions for
that's
our
a sweet
data diver
take.
throughout the game to access new areas. Well, that isn't the only thing you get to access. The Mr. and Mrs. Helpfuls throughout the facility also have different responses depending on the staff level that is talking to them. If you go back and find them all once you get executive level access, we actually start to hear messages recorded by Edwin or Fiona directly addressing one another. And this one right here is very interesting indeed.
I've got something very important to ask you. Okay, here goes. You become the heart of this company, and I want to share it with you. And you're also really pretty, like asymmetrical pretty. So, will you marry me, please?
Yes,
really
it's very
sweet.
nerdy and very sweet, just like how I proposed. The point is, during Edwin's awkward ramblings, he says this line.
A little bit of personal lore there. It's funny.
Become the heart of this company.
You are the heart of the company. When they met, she was just a new employee. There's no way she would be that instrumental to the company and its quote-unquote heart. However,
That's funny. Why did they do the like Photoshop on that to make her that expression? That's wild. Why is she smiling like that?
once Murray Sr.
That's a very
passed
creepy
on
spot.
and Edwin was
Yeah.
left in charge, Fiona became his main collaborator. She is the one who cared for the employees and the company while Edwin was off making more crazy inventions. We can even hear her concern during the pre-recorded elevator repair tapes.
Please follow the instructions to reset the elevator. Sounds scary.
It feels like she's reading a script and she's
yeah,
kind of
it
concerned
may
about what
already
she's
be open.
reading.
It's only once Edwin takes over that Fiona has the opportunity to fill the position as the heart of the company. And also, I mean, this recording is on a Helpful, one of the things that Edwin would only have been able to install fully once he'd taken over.
Could start making some of my inventions for real.
All of that to say that Murray Sr. died sometime between Edwin and Fiona dating and them getting engaged, placing it sometime in 1967. And that's an important detail because while it seems early in most timelines for this franchise, Murray Sr. appears to have some kind of connection with Fazbear Entertainment, even before he passes and hands the company over to Edwin. In a number of the audio logs you can find later on in the game, it becomes very clear that Edwin is getting a little bit paranoid.
Edwin, never forget, they're behind it. Don't trust them. Never tell them they want to destroy you. Dad was right.
Now, you may be asking, who is this them
Is
and
it
what is it
paranoid,
he's not
though,
supposed to
if
be
it's
telling them? Well,
valid?
through a
I mean, fair. Like, I don't think that it's paranoid whenever literally everything is going against you and you do have a corporation that is like basically poaching your employees and like stealing everything from you. Like, I would get a little bit paranoid too. Be a little bit upset. Plus, your wife died.
I think it's very justified.
your wife and kid are dead and you're paranoid that something bad is gonna happen when everything bad has already happened.
Oh, we're just being delusional. You should see a therapist.
You're just seeing things. It's like that part in Ruin where it's like Cassie just casually like teleports and she's like, "How did I get here?" And Helpy's just like, "With your own 2 feet." And it's just like just gaslighting, you know.
Another couple of audio and text logs, both of those answers become quite easy to figure out. In literally the next audio log you can obtain, Edwin tells us that there's a leak in the company.
I figured it out.
Yep.
There's a leak. Someone told them about M2. Well, they can't have it.
M2, the brand new mimic that can adjust to any costume and mimic any character or person, is what's being leaked. And with that in mind, the they becomes even easier to figure out. A bunch of the text logs have a consistent running theme. Working for Murray's Costume Manor sucks. They want out.
One more injury and I'm out of here. I mean it this time. Barb, I swear, if I hear that song one more time, I'm going to tear that dolly off her hinges. I have no clue how much longer I can take it here.
Some of them leave on their own accord, while others are being poached by a rival company.
We're almost there. I need the rest of the Murray staff contact info. The sooner the better. You get that for me, and I can sweeten the deal. How would you like to manage one of the new franchise locations?
Pretty fast, Bear.
That's right, good old
Pretty
Willie A
Fazbear.
is here, and he's as evil a businessman as we always thought. Fazbear is actively stealing not just employees, but their business secrets. So, it's Fazbear that is, quote, behind it. They are the ones who want to destroy Edwin, and he is reminding himself to not let them have the Mimic program. But do you remember the last thing he said?
Dad was right.
Dad was right. This mini paranoid speech is all about how Fazbear isn't to be trusted, and those words of advice came from Edwin's father. How? Because clearly Murray Sr. knew about Fazbear, Afton, and all of their shady business practices. Either because Murray Sr. was already in business with them prior to his death, or simply because MCM had been around for a while, and so he'd have likely seen how they operated and how small businesses they were working with suddenly disappeared. And so he made sure to warn his son about them. We all knew that Fazbear had been around a lot longer than we thought with the introduction of the 1970s Fall Fest poster in Help Wanted 2, but now it seems that they go back even further. Sure, it's only a few more years on paper, but just like everything in this game, we're being shown that we can't strictly rely on what we think we know as definitive. If we thought this prequel destroyed our understanding of the franchise, just wait until we learn about what was going on before all of this. First, it's a few more years into the 1960s, but who knows how far back it goes. Maybe Matt and I weren't so far off with the whole singing bear in the 1930s. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory! Thanks for watching.
Bear, I mean, that would be interesting to see. Yeah, I mean, Freddy Fazbear stealing all these secrets, you know, the dark side of capitalism. Definitely could see how it would make Glamstar Freddy, you know, a devout lover of cheddar in the future.
No one understands that reference. Nobody understands
it's okay, I
that.
don't care.
No one gets
I'm
it.
like, what?
Oh, my goodness.
yes. No, but yeah, Glamrock Freddy, canonically a communist.
No, my goodness.
Because he knows about all the shady business that went on in the past.
There's no context for that. We can't give context. My goodness.
Yes.
There is context.
Like, where does that come from? There
is
it does
context.
make sense.
Inside joke.
But that's just a theory.
That's just a cheddar-filled
A
theory.
joke theory.
So
Thanks for watching.
So overall, that was pretty much what I thought it was going to be, with it just kind of laying out the foundations. There wasn't really anything I would say that was necessarily like hot takes or controversies. I think that's for the next video. I think the next video is probably going to get into some spicy territory with like the Mexis program and talking about that, which we're about to jump into. I don't know if anybody watching has any thoughts. But I think that if not, we will jump into...
We got 4 watching, so if you guys have anything to say, do say.
Speak your mind. But you don't have to fill anyway. We got plenty of other stuff to watch. Let's see. So let's see. This is gonna be an interesting one. This is gonna be an interesting one because this one I actually have thoughts on. We'll see how this goes. It seems based on the thumbnail. We'll see. Yes, your guest's voice is very nice. That's
Thank you.
Talking about yourself in the third person that is
No, I have no idea what we're talking about, but I can see why the Shatter is #1.
Yes, yes. You're actually number 2 though.
No, it switched to #1.
Oh, did it? Oh,
Yeah,
I don't see that on my end. Okay. All right.
It says so on my end, or maybe I just gassed myself up.
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe chat a little bit more. Get that engagement.
Yeah.
We got to get that engagement up, guys. We got to...
okay. So this one probably will have some spicy... Yeah. I definitely like the spicier takes.
I want to hear Tom
so safe.
Get into something that is not a when does this fall into the timeline. Because Tom, for the longest time, and I'm not yelling at him because I understand it's hard to have the spicy takes and get yelled at on Twitter. But Tom, I need some. Let's get into the symbolism. Let's get into the stuff. Like let's get a little bit deep.
I want to hear the Roman and Greek mythology.
Oh, we do need to talk about Artemis and Vesta eventually. Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, we did. If you want to rewind and watch the beginning where we talk about Greek and Roman mythology and its implications for the FNAF timeline, you can rewind where I fully discuss all of that because there were some interesting things that were found that relate to.
Oh, I guess I should ask you too. How many mexes do you think there are at the time of this game?
I think that there is one. There might be 2.
Just one, okay.
Nexus is directly associated with M1 because the M1 terminal that holds the cradle is the thing that reveals what Nexus is, what it means, the mechanical X4 experimental storage. Let's get into it, though.
Secret of the Mimic.
And if it does get into what an X form is and the frequencies and how that works, and hopefully finally we get into the is this a ghost, or if it's not, what else is it?
Has finally solved security breach. Thanks to the inclusion of the Mimic's backstory, we now have the answers that we have been dying to understand for years. What is the Mimic's goal? What is the deal with mexes? And why was the lore of security breach so confusing in the first place? You know, besides the whole Scott not telling Steelwool the story thing.
I thought I could do that without telling Steelwool the story plot.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that has ingested so much FNAF lore, it too has chosen violence. That's right, today we're tackling the second main character in our 3-part Secret of the Mimic extravaganza, the Mimic. Although I say that, as I was writing this episode, one thing became very clear. There is way too much to say about this character to fit in just one episode, and so I'm gonna add a bonus 4th episode to our lineup. Today we're gonna focus on the Mimic's past and present, and next time, its future. That also puts our very special FNAF Theorist live talkback on August 16th at 2 p.m. EST. So mark your calendars, folks, and hit the subscribe button before the Mimic comes and gets you. Sorry I miscalculated, but hey, Steelwool is still calling it Five Nights at Freddy's when all of their games take place in just one night, so... Oh look, the Mimic, it's here! Did you not hit the subscribe button like I asked? Seriously? I suppose you still have some time, but while you do that, let's actually talk about this one-of-a-kind villain. Well, actually, despite me referring to it as the Mimic this whole time, the one key thing Secret of the Mimic was very clear about, it's really not one of a kind at all, which, to be fair, is something we've been believing for a while now. In Tales from the Pizzaplex, we see 2 versions of the Mimic. The Mimic 1 program, which was the Mimic software that Edwin Murray created to put into a half-finished endoskeleton to play with his son David, which was then later used by Fazbear in The Storyteller, and then there's the Mimic 2, which was Fazbear's improvements on the original design, creating an...
Why do you have this on the blob, sir? What are... Immediately getting into spicy takes. I don't think it's necessarily a spicy take, but I think that it is interesting. Is it immediately that he's implying that the blob is the Mimic? Interesting.
I mean, that would be a strange place to go for it, but I guess it's possible. I mean, I guess it mimics everything.
Well, there's an
Technically,
interesting
if you're stretching that out.
there's an interesting little bit of thing. There's an interesting little thing here where the blob is an amalgamation of different parts, similarly to what the mimic is, because the mimic is an amalgamation of different voices, and like it has that amalgamation that it is in the end with the like the different parts it uses to create a costume, and like it's just there's a lot of elements to it, like with the Fast Four stuff, and like specifically it being like a collection of the past. It would make sense. I'm just wondering if that's all it is, if there may be more to it. Also, if it gets into like the M1, M2 stuff, I'm gonna have a lot of stuff to say about that.
To be fair, is something we've been believing for a while now. In Tales from the Pizzaplex, we see two versions of the Mimic. The Mimic 1 program, which was the Mimic software that Edwin Murray created to put into a half-finished endoskeleton to play with his son David, which was then later used by Fazbear in The Storyteller. And then there's the Mimic 2, which was Fazbear's improvements on the original design, creating an endoskeleton that could change its shape and size to fit any costume or animatronic. However, how all of that tied into things like Security Breach and Ruin were pretty speculative, especially as we didn't even know if the book stories were in the same continuity and whether we could rely on them wholesale or not. My personal theory was that yes, those two mimics were indeed present in Security Breach, with the Mimic 2 being the physical endoskeleton we find in the basement of Ruin, and the Mimic 1 program being what we now know as Glitchtrap, taking over
That's interesting.
Fazbear's systems and
interesting in a good way, but interesting.
Using it to manipulate people into doing its bidding, like Helpy does to Cassie in Ruin, which is why we get this interaction between Helpy and the totally real Gregory arguing.
I took care of it.
The area is safe now.
Yeah, with my help.
But now we do have a definitive backstory for the Mimic inside the game continuity. It turns out that yes, there are indeed two in-game mimics, but there are some key differences from their book counterparts, and that drastically changes our entire understanding of Security Breach, Ruin, and the program that was trying to keep the Mimic underground. Mexes.
Yes, Mexis lore. I am excited about this because, oh boy, I have thoughts.
So, hop into that definitely working elevator, friends, as we
We'll get
plummet
into it
down into the
whenever he
depths
talks
of
about
Murray's costume manor to discover the real secret of the Mimic. So, what does this game actually tell us about the game universe's version of the Mimic? Well, like most things in this game, it's similar but different to what we were expecting. Edwin does create the original Mimic, M1, to babysit David.
Think of it as your new babysitter, but it doesn't get paid and go home. It'll stay with us and help around the house.
But he also states that it was created to work inside multiple costumes.
It'll wear fun costumes. It can fit into any costume we've created.
Essentially, the game's lore has combined the purposes of the books M1 and M2 into one creation, and attributed all of it to Edwin, rather than one being a Fazbear creation, just like basically everything in this game. But this M1 also develops a little more than its book counterpart.
This is where I heard it. It's her or someone that sounds like her.
That's good, honey, but from the party.
M1 begins showing signs of mimicking the deceased wife of its creator, literally mimicking the role of David's primary caretaker, his mother, Fiona. As we discussed last time, Fiona tragically died in a fire at Fall Fest, and this totally...
Here's the thing about this recording, and I think this is often misunderstood. This is not the mimic, as in this is not the endoskeleton, because the context this is given into is that this is something that he heard, that he went into the basement and he heard like something that sounded like his wife, and then he for some reason went down and turned the frequency to 4625 specifically, and then like called out to it. And the way that he calls out to it, it's almost like this thing of desperation. To me, it feels like Edwin is like almost turning to the supernatural in a way. He's like looking for like ghost, and it's like he's using almost like a spirit box in a way, like this as like a spirit box to see if he can connect with his dead wife. And so when he's calling out and he's like, "It's me, Edwin," and it responds, it's using a recording from the Manor House tapes that we see later in the game. So it is in a way mimicking, but it's interesting because it's not I don't think it's specifically the endoskeleton learning to do this, at least not to my understanding, because it's using frequencies, which is something that the mimic only gets connected to later on through the Mexis program, because that's what the Mexis program is. It's a computer. It's basically not even a computer. Like, it is a computer, but it's something that's used to transmit and change frequencies, to like store the frequency, the information of that frequency. Seemingly that was like gathered together to create the M2 program. Like, it was a branch that M1 created, seemingly, with Edwin. Kind of, they it seems like a collaboration that they were working together to create M2, which I think is really interesting.
M1 begins showing signs of mimicking the deceased wife of its creator, literally mimicking the role of David's primary caretaker, his mother, Fiona. As we discussed last time, Fiona tragically died in a fire at Fall
Like,
Fest.
we're not too far away from this actually just being a common thing that happens.
That is true. Yeah.
Like, that's very freaky to think about.
In the aspect of like
already?
Like an AI being put into a robot with like a face and being like,
well, yeah, well, I know like,
that's
the creator. I don't know if you know what Replica is, but like those first like chat bots were made by somebody who basically had their friend die, and they took all the chat logs and trained an AI to talk like them because they missed them. And then whenever you get like those personality things with like an actual physical body, the future generation's gonna be so messed up whenever it comes to mourning.
There was actually a story in Five Nights at Freddy's in one of the books that was directly about that, where is Friendly Faces, where like a kid like loses his like best friend, his best friend and their cat get run over by a car, and so like he finds out that there's like this Fazbear Entertainment product where you can send them like DNA, and it will like put it of like a dead pet. It's kind of like playing off like it's a riff on seemingly what's it called, Pet Cemetery, where it's like he sends DNA to them and they like use it to like replicate the personality of like a dead pet, so that like you don't have to be alone anymore, except that because the pet and his friend died together, it got both of their DNA, so it became like a mixture of both the pet and his dead friend. It's really dark.
You know,
it's terrifying.
You know what?
And it starts to like terrorize him.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I also have a feeling, and I don't want to make this stream controversial, you know, but I have a feeling that somebody we saw extremely recently might also need one of those.
Oh, I'm.
Yesterday.
I don't know if.
Yesterday.
Oh.
Maybe. I don't know if I'm going off.
I'm so lost at what you're referencing, though. For real, like I don't know what happened. If it's too much on the edge, we don't have to go there. But I mean, that's
no, it's really not. I'll just message on Discord real quick.
Oh, okay, yeah, just message it to me.
It's really not.
Because I don't know. Like, it's probably something that I do know about that I just like completely.
No, it's funny because whenever I say it, we're gonna be like,
Oh no! I mean, it's not controversial, I guess. I mean, we were playing. Okay, yeah.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I get
don't
it.
necessarily want to bring that thing into the stream, but I just.
Yeah, I mean, I
just thought it was funny.
I have no problem talking about it, but I mean, like, I get it. That's really funny. Once again, another inside joke. We can't explain ourselves on. We could, but we're not going to. Anyway.
Totally destroys Edwin's mental state.
I can't do this alone.
So, naturally, when he starts thinking he's hearing the voice of his wife, he leans in hard. By David's last birthday, M1 is still not wearing any costumes like Edwin said it would, but instead it is mimicking Fiona perfectly. Baking a cake, hanging decorations, all of that good stuff.
I baked it myself for David's special day.
This is where Edwin's second tragedy strikes. M1 Fiona goes down to get David while everyone is waiting to celebrate him, only for them to discover that David is dead. Again.
And then M1 kills David.
The sweet treats too. I wonder if that's like a motif, right? Because we're saying that the mimic kills David after this. I mean, you can't help but think back to Sister Location and like the offering of sweets before an untimely demise.
That is true. That is interesting, and there are a lot of relations between Baby and the Mimic. Specifically, I'm just gonna say this, the voice lines of Baby now in the context of the Mimic, like the whole idea of her being like, oh, I know how to pretend, but like the others don't, is so interesting to me. And it's like the fact that Baby seems to be her own personality separate from Elizabeth. Like Elizabeth doesn't really have a presence. It's talking about her in the third person. Like it's talking about her like she's not even there. And the fact that it says it's broken, and the whole thing is that M2 is broken and needs to be repaired. So it's like, is the idea that like Baby was used at like that not Mexis, but like that the mimic was used to make Baby, and then killed Elizabeth and got a soul so that it could like. But here's the thing that's interesting.
Well, the thing with that chip, you know, I wonder how that plays into it too, if you know what I'm talking about.
That's a reference to, interestingly enough, that's a reference to the Goonies, I think, which was released in 1985. That's like the whole thing where, I don't know if you've ever watched that movie, but it's like the whole thing where like kids go off on an adventure to try to find like a pirate's lost treasure. Hijinks ensues. There's a lot of drama. There's like a rival group of like thieves that are trying to like get a hold of it too. And then they like learn the value of friendship through this adventure. You know, there's a lot of like then they find a pirate ship and it's in a cave, and it's exactly like how it looks in that like the moon.exe. So that's like and the whole thing is like the treasure is like booby trapped, so it's like they have to that's how they defeat the thieves and stuff. I haven't watched it in a while, so there's probably a lot more to it, but I can't remember all of it.
But yeah, I get it. No,
it's very
I didn't know that was a reference, but even with it being a reference, you know, I think it's sort of interesting with this mimic context if there's like some middle ground between both are right. Like, yes, there is some possession by Elizabeth that is happening, but also like you could have like a dual personality where because that would actually be a very interesting dichotomy whenever it can mimic somebody, but that somebody is also there too, because then you never know when you're supposed to listen to the voice and it's actually sincerely calling out versus when it's using a voice to deceive, you know.
Kind of the big thing with Sister, like that's the whole theme of Sister Location. I mean, the whole thing of like you going into the like Sister Location like security office and the alternate ending, and then like Innard starts to mimic Elizabeth's voice in that. Because like
the best thing about it is it's a pun too. We gotta throw that out there. It's so great
for Elizabeth.
Sister Location.
Yeah,
well, just the name Sister Location. Yeah.
It's Scott. I mean, the whole thing of like security breach too is kind of a pun too, because the whole thing's about insecurities. Yeah. So it's like breaching your security.
Yeah,
insecurity.
We definitely, me and you are definitely pun lovers. I think we can both attest that whenever we were younger, we'd do stupid puns like out the window, trying to see who would run out of puns first. And I appreciate that Scott has the same sensibilities.
I love it. It's good. Let's see where
Edwin
this
is destroyed by this. But this time, M1 Fiona is here, and she has a quick and easy solution.
You need to try again. Build another.
The two go back and forth over this for a while, but eventually...
This is another thing. M1 has an ability to respond in a way that is fluent, and M2 does not. M2 is strictly held to using voice recordings, while it seems as if M1 is saying things that like Fiona never would. And it's not like copying or mimicking her personality specifically. It's just using her voice to effectively manipulate Edwin into doing what she wants him to do. I mean, soothing him.
Well,
that's at least
do the mimics want to like replicate themselves? Like, is that something that's established as like they want more of them out there?
That seems to be my current theory, is that the whole idea, like, the glitch trap's whole goal is, like, it's specified that it wants to spread. That's why it's a virus, is because a virus wants to spread. So it's like, even, like, the whole thing of, like, it being a rabbit has, like, implications for that, too, of it, like, being something that's, like, mass reproduction. It's interesting, and that's I think why it's so interesting that like this is M1 is like a figure that is like a mother, because it's almost as if like everything comes from her. She is the source. She is the mother. In the same way that we get all these references like Artemis, like Vesta, which are also mother-like figures that run cults.
Well, this is interesting too,
and have
with
followers.
like the virus.
Yes.
With the virus thing too, with us like adding some Greek mythology to it. You know, the most common virus that everybody knows about is the Trojan. You know.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Which is interesting, and maybe that's going to be in a future installment too. So we're gonna see more sprinkles of just like subtle Greek mythology hints.
And interestingly, Vesta is a goddess of I think I was reading that part of like the temple that was dedicated to her was originally built in Troy, like was in a part of like the Ilium part of the Trojans, because that's where the Romans come from, is Troy, I believe. I might be getting that wrong, but I mean, once again, based on like Wikipedia, so grain of salt.
I definitely need to like research that too, because I know with Epic, I feel like I need to read both the Iliad and the Odyssey at one point.
It's really interesting.
Just getting all my information from online sources.
Yeah, but it's that's why I keep bringing them up and why they are relevant, is because they do have ties back to M1 specifically, and the way that she's being portrayed is very interesting. I feel
like it's a unique thing to focus on too, because I haven't heard other people in the FNAF community really bring it up at all. Though I think that you've looked into things like at a different level, because I think the last time we were doing a stream for Secret of the Mimic, we were literally analyzing soundtrack names. So you've done a deeper dive than most people.
Also, I still can't find that book, and it's driving me crazy. I still need to find Monster, that like cut story, because there's a lot of mythology that's mentioned in that book. That's really interesting. Also, I was actually kind of scanning through like Fazbear Fights and like Tales of the Pizzaplex to see if there was like any other mentions of Greek mythology, and it is interesting that like Into the Pit has like specifically it mentions like Greek heroes, and that like slaying the Pit Bonnie, like the Spring Bonnie character in that, was like him being a Greek hero, slaying like the I think it mentions Cerbis. What's it?
Cerbis, I think is correct. I'm not sure if the pronunciation is like spot on, but it's close.
Is correct. But it is interesting. So it's like slaying a monster. But it's interesting that it's tied again to like Greek mythology. and that's like a big
For
thing.
sure.
Gives in and begins attempting to make a new mimic that will mimic his dead son. However, it doesn't really seem to be working.
Every copy has failed. I don't even know why it worked the first time, but it did.
The only reference Edwin has for the mimic idea working is M1, which leads to Edwin's final gambit. In one of the text logs we receive after meeting M1 Fiona during the parachute ending, it says the M2 began as a copy of my program. This log has been sent by M1 to Edwin's machine. In order to make M2 work, Edwin simply made a copy of her.
Which is kind of strange since she says she doesn't have communication. But I guess it's just that Edwin didn't write back because he was dead. He wasn't alive anymore. He's not there.
And to be fair, poor form, you know, it's definitely not stopped other people in this universe.
True.
Programming. I guess if you can't figure out how it worked the first time, just
we're
duplicate
literally
the thing
gonna
that
ghost
already
it.
works. And it does work. It's just a little too much for Edwin to handle.
Not him. You're not. Stop sounding like him.
This moment is what turned M2 into the killing machine we now find in the game, and its first victim, the man who tried to destroy it.
Due to a minor detonation, there is damage to my office interior.
And that is essentially everything we know from the game itself. It's unclear exactly what happens next to get us to Security Breach and Ruin. It's gonna depend heavily on which ending is canon and what happens in the inevitable DLC that Steelworld does for all of their FNAF games. Personally, my money's on the DLC being about Fall Fest. I proved last time that the game takes place in September 1979, so Fall Fest would likely be in full swing, and the Mimic is free in every ending. But regardless of whether I'm right about that, one thing I am sure about is that at some point, M2 is gonna be trapped inside MCM. It will get cemented up only for us to go down into the basement of Ruin and find it again. Now, I know what you're thinking. These two characters don't look anything alike, but just take a look around first. We have a springlock scooper, wooden boxes filled with costumes like crows, elephants, and lions, the similar flooring and wood panel walls with builders' lights hanging from them. Everything we're seeing at MCM matches stuff that we saw underground when we encountered the Mimic in Ruin. We can also find endoskeleton pieces deep within MCM from when Edwin was experimenting trying to create the Mimic. And if you look closely, some of them don't really match the current version of the Mimic, but they match the
I just had like this strange thought, you know, and this is sort of like out there, but if we're talking about maybe potentially having a Mimic 1 or Mimic 2 in her, we've commented on how strange it is that Sister Location and Security Breach's DLC of Ruined have like so much in common.
Yeah.
And I think me and you have sort of like gone through the route, maybe it's happening in the same location, you know? But it would be an interesting thought to, what if it happened in a different location, but it was there for Sister Location, so it almost tries to emulate the same environment. I mean that's just sort of like a crackhead idea, probably, but
that is interesting. I don't know. Like I think that the
definitely a strange idea, but it just randomly came to me that it's like,
I wouldn't say it's strange. I think that I'm just thinking it through. Like I wonder if there's, because for me, I'm like, my headcanon for it right now, as far as like my thoughts, and this may change, is that like it's all the same location. And the reason for that is because like the bones are all there, like it's set up, and also the house on the hill is what will become William's house, which is the layout that we see on the Sister Location map. But on that kind of preface, in FNAF 6, we get implication that there's more than one FNAF 6 location, because the building you enter, Henry tells you that like, whenever you're like salvaging baby, there's that whole like beginning section where you're like going through the whole order, and it's like, when you leave, seal the room and you are not to return. It's like, this is the end of everything, like this is the end point, and then she attacks you and seemingly kills you and then leaves. So it's like, the idea is that there was like, Henry has tried this before, potentially with other locations. So it's like, maybe, you know, the FNAF 6 location isn't the FNAF 6 location in Ruin. But it's like, I don't know about that. Like, it could be, but I'm unsure. And I think that there's been too many...
It's hard to say.
there's a lot of correlations too with Sister Location and Help Wanted 2 that would make it make sense. But I could definitely, I mean, I could see it. There's definitely a lot of, there's an interesting, there's an interesting element too with like the whole mention of Sister Location and like Didophobia, which was another Tales of the Pizzaplex book that connected directly with FNAF 4, and it was like presented it as like this is a fear experiment. So there's a lot of interesting elements at play with that. So I'm interested to see what like Tom's take is on this, if he thinks that it's Sister Location. But, you know, no, that's very interesting.
Let's see.
Skeleton of the Mimic that we find in Ruin. My guess is that in the lead up to it being cemented, or even during the cementing up of MCM itself, it ended up getting damaged, or some of the pieces just stopped working over time, and so it replaces its parts one by one. We've already seen it replace its legs, so what's an arm, or a torso, or a head? Finally though, the Mimic in Ruin, it acts just like the M2 we see in Secret of the Mimic. It's mimicking a young boy, Gregory, it's wearing mascot costumes, and it's being violent towards humans. It even walks in a similar fashion and gets its hand stuck in an elevator. Now, that last one doesn't strictly make the two characters the same. Anyone can get their arm stuck in an elevator. But the fact that Steelwool programmed that in, along with all the other things we've talked about, it seems like they're trying to tie together these characters and this area, telling us that the Pizzaplex, and by association FNAF 6, was built on top of MCM, locking away all of its inventions down here, including M2 itself. I mean, we know that Fazbear isn't against saving some cash by building on top of previous establishments, and there's one text log directly from Willie A himself that tells us that he owns the land which MCM stands on. But that's only one of the mimics answered for. What about M1? Well, to start with, she's just chilling inside a computer. Yeah, it seems that not only was M2 a copy of M1's programming, he also put M2 into the very same endoskeleton. Just look at them side by side. They're identical. Well, besides the legs, because, you know. And we don't see another one of these endoskeletons walking around or even decommissioned. So all signs are pointing to Edwin removing the M1 program from the endoskeleton, putting M2 into the endoskeleton, and leaving M1 as just a program inside the computer that we find during the parachute ending.
Except that M1 is not a program. I think that I really hope he talks about what Nexus means. I have a feeling he will, but it is interesting. Like, it's a weird thing where it's called a program several times though, but it's like it seems like it's a program that is running, or like that M1 can reside within. But I think that if we're going the route of like the entity is Mexis, is Fiona, M1 is not subjugated to this machine. It can go other places. And we see that, I think.
It's nice to meet you face to face.
But as I'm sure most of you have realized, this isn't just any computer. This is the same computer that we found down in the basement of Ruin. The one that was running...
I say that, then immediately goes into it, but...
The Mexis program. The big digital genie bunny that is keeping M2 locked away underneath the Pizzaplex. Does this mean Fiona is Mexis? Has Mexis actually been the M1 mimic like we first suspected when we saw the trailers for Ruin? I actually got asked about this during the theory crafting livestream we did immediately after our GT Live playthrough, which is what inspired me to do this episode in the first place. So thanks for showing up and being a part of that if that was you. At the time, it stumped me, but now that I've actually had some time to think about it, I believe I do have an answer. And that answer is... not quite. Honestly, it just doesn't make sense for Fiona to be a big blue bunny. Now, yes, I know what series we're talking about. FNAF rarely makes sense, but hear me out. We've always talked about how the Fazbear character...
There's a greater reason why I believe that, though. First of all, Mexis is just a machine. M1 is separate from Mexis. Like, Mexis is just the storage for the program, for M1. Which means that, and I think that, like, well, maybe I should just listen. Let's just listen before we get into
we can
judgment.
just listen.
Tend to be used as symbolism in these games. Freddy tends to be representative of Henry, for example. But in this game, we're also shown that Fiona was the one who designed Foxy and Chica. So, if something is meant to represent her, it's more likely going to be one of those two. In my opinion, most likely Foxy. He was originally a puppet and she was a puppeteer. But Bonnie has always represented Afton. Afton was the reason Edmund was locked away in the R&D department and in his home, working on the new restaurant concept, keeping him away from his family, his son, which led to his death. And
it's not necessarily representative of a character as much as it's representative of a role, and this game is kind of entirely about that. The entire role of the bunny is that it's something that is scared and running, and it's something that, like, a coward. It's representative of a coward. Whenever, like, William got stuck in the Springlock suit, it was because he was being a coward. He was being confronted with the children, running away from the children, being faced with the consequences of his actions, and he ran away. So I think that the implication isn't that, like, William is associated specifically with the bunny, and more so that, like, William is a coward. William he keeps running and running and running because he doesn't want to go to hell to face the consequences of his actions. Yeah, they don't specifically have to be associated, even though they are, and there's a parallel definitely for that. But I think that what it's representing is that I think what potentially it could be talking about is that M1 ran away, or it had to run off and hide, because Glitch Trap is something that's, like, in the background. I'm not saying specifically M1 is Glitch Trap necessarily one-to-one, but definitely the entity. We can.
Yeah,
there's reasons.
Are we calling the bunny the entity? I'm not as in the weeds as you, so
let me show you guys something. There's a reason why. The way that the entity, first of all, is specifically called out to be separate from the Vanny network that's connected to Mexis. So it's not specifically running on that program, but it entered it and it uses it. There's a lot of reasons for this. I'm trying to hold on. I might not have it on this.
A fun headcanon too with, like, the mimic thing. It could have totally forgotten all of the things that happened between here and Security Breach, and, like, the Grimmick is just solely mimicking Gregory. That would be funny. Like, the violence is also just from Gregory.
It's all really funny. It's all Gregory. It's just all Gregory's fault. Let's be real. I mean, Gregory is
Gregory is a freak of nature, especially after the
Escape the Pizzaplex books.
The Escape the Pizzaplex books, which I prefer to I don't like that one very much, because it's like, why would she go back for, like, such an arse? I mean, I guess people say it is realistic. People, especially whenever they're younger, distancing themselves from somebody that's not good for them. If it's their only person, it is very difficult. But I think it very much just depends on somebody's personality. I think there's plenty of kids that, like, would not have gone back for Gregory if
it is very strange.
They put him through all that.
I'm trying to find where it says this. Hold on.
But, I mean, bunnies in general, you know, it created the best line, I think, in all of the FNAF games. Vanny. That's a lot like Vanessa and Bunny. Don't you think, Gregory?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. That is correct. Okay.
FNAF fans, we want simpler storytelling. The outrage, whatever they're given, they give it to us.
This is the Security Breach files. This is the updated edition that recently came out. This is technically official. Technically, it is official. This is official material. And it says right here, it's a Vanny mask from the main game, and it brings Cassie into the cyberspace AR world, where she can make repairs to security nodes, operate special AR cameras, and walk through spaces that were previously obstructed. It's all good, well, except it leaves Cassie vulnerable to attack from the entity, a virus that infects AR. The entity is a virus. That's really interesting. And Glitch Trap is also a virus. that is said to be spreading throughout the Help Wanted VR experience. So it seems to imply that they are connected in some way. I don't think they're necessarily the same, but the whole bunny thing. And if you look at it, like, M2 is kind of like disgusted by it. Like, he does not care for this thing at all. But it's interesting that, like, it's trying to stop you from separating the parent node from its child node. Parent.
Oh yeah, that's
child.
Interesting symbolism.
So you're like connecting those together, but you're breaking the nodes. So it's like you're making new connections.
After you say this, the thing this theory reminds me of is, and we're not gonna like this too much.
Oh no.
Was whenever I don't know if you remember like the theory on Doctor Strange 2, but they were like multiverse of madness. That acronym's into MOM.
That was a game theory.
It'll be, yeah, but a film theory technically. Yes, I'm gonna be pedantic. Yes,
that's fair. That's fair.
Back in the day, whenever MatPat, but I have to say I haven't really watched a lot of game theories since MatPat has left, and I think this person's doing a great job on emulating the style.
I like Tom. Tom is I like his personality. Good old British guy.
Yeah, I just haven't watched much after Matt's left, but
yeah,
really
fair.
stylistically, this feels very much like game theory.
I mean, it's meant to. It's the same channel. It's trying to
keep up the style. They're doing a good job at it. I'm just saying because I've definitely seen channels be handed over and it's just unrecognizable.
I feel like they've done a good job with it. I think overall. We'll see where this goes.
Eventually, Tom created a violent and destructive mimic. So rather than Mixes being a representation of Fiona, it's far more fitting that it's a representation of Afton. This new mimic has taken on part of Edwin's personality, the violent part, and is now being kept locked away by another blue rabbit. Like father, like son. But the real reason I don't think they're one and the same is because of the parachute ending. During it, we have to activate something called cradle.exe. We first hear about what this cradle is from one of the text logs. A handful of these logs seem to be addressed to Edwin and have a subject line written in binary, like a computer program trying the text logs.
The reason that I mentioned this right here, Mechanical X-Form Experimental Storage 1, the other computer you activate to get the Mimic 2 is called Experimental Storage 2. So Mexis is M1. Mexis M1. Mimic, the blueprints, is a separate acronym we don't know yet, which is interesting.
A handful of these logs seem to be addressed to Edwin and have a subject line written in binary, like a computer program trying to communicate, i.e. M1. One of these specifically asks Edwin to consider building the cradle if he won't fix M2's programming, and provides him with the blueprints for it. She describes it as a computer, bigger than anything he's built before, which sounds familiar on its own, but if you stop just before executing cradle.exe, you can see that it has a description. Mechanical X-Form Experimental Storage. MXEX. Mexes was actually M1's idea. But then if Mexes is a separate program designed by M1, why does she end up on the same computer? It's because of what Mexes stands for. I've already mentioned it stands for Mechanical X-Form Experimental Storage. The word there you may not be familiar with is X-Form. Simply, it's just programming shorthand for the word transform, i.e. it's an experimental way of storing or keeping locked away a transforming machine. Makes sense. However, there is a little more to it than that. In programming, the transforming that X-Form refers to is an object's position, rotation, and scale. Again, all things we understand about the Mimic's transforming abilities, but the key is how those transformations are applied. You see, X-Forms are hierarchical, meaning transformations applied to a parent X-Form affect all of the objects assigned to that parent, like they're its children, if you will. M1 was the first Mimic, the original, so it needed to be on the same machine as Mexes to act as the hierarchical X-Form for M2. M1 has also taken on the role of Fiona, while M2 M2 is supposed to be David, Fiona's child. Again, fitting nicely into that hierarchical programming setup. The parent is there so that Mexes can help control the child. Mexes can apply something to M1 that will automatically control.
So then it's
where my mind immediately goes with this is so out there, but I'm immediately thinking of Ultron and Vision from Age of Ultron. Like, Ultron would have done a lot better had he had a Nexus of his own.
I mean, true. Parameters for it to learn. I think that the definition, so like the reason that I was saying X forms was applicable to frequencies is because there is a frequency X form that can adapt the frequencies to what it needs to be. It is an expander that transforms the frequencies, which I think does make more sense considering where it comes from. But
these walkie-talkies are also insane with how far their reach is.
I mean, that is true.
It is very strange. I've used a real walkie-talkie, and there's like almost no range on those things.
But there's a lot of like specific. But I didn't even think about X-Form as like a programming. Well, I wonder what. I think the reason that I didn't think about that is because X-Form as a programming language is a rather new concept that was not introduced. X-Form programming. Declarative XML based programming is declarative. Maybe this isn't what it is. Yeah, in Introduction to X-Forms or XML. The problem is that XML was not introduced until much, much later. Like, when came... Was it used? Created. Probably be... So Xform is XML format to create web forms. Xform is a markup language used for creating web forms that was introduced in early 2000s. It's part of the XML family and was designed to replace HTML forms with a more powerful and flexible approach, so something that could adapt. It was adapted in 2001, 2003. Yeah, it kind of, but that's, I mean, it could have been, I guess, introduced sooner. But the idea of it being like a frequency, I feel like that was probably developed a lot earlier. Was kind of the thing, which is why I didn't really consider it. Because I did see that, but I'm not sure if even that's something that existed back in the 70s. But then again, once again, futuristic tech, but it is using analog technology, hence the mechanical. Like, it's not an electrical, it's a mechanical, which means it's using analog technology. But yeah, so it seems like the idea of it being like something that can expand and like adapt, that does make sense. Because that's what the Mimic does, but it's interesting. It feels like that would be you're storing something that is ever changing that can adapt.
Yeah,
that's interesting. But the fact that they specifically call it an X form, and I don't think it can be the programming XML language, because that wasn't developed in the 70s. That was developed much later. But it could be. It could be. I don't know. But that is interesting. It's an interesting interpretation that I don't necessarily think I'm like against, because it does add a little bit more context.
M2. But clearly the program was never installed. Edwin built the Cradle computer and put M1 Fiona into it in order that the Mexes program could use her to control the child and keep it locked away, but Mexes isn't actually installed until we come along during the parachute ending. Eventually, Fazbear came along and collected the Cradle in a Fazbear van like we saw in the Help Wanted 2 update, with Mexes fully operational. It's at this point that I believe they separated these two programs, Mexes and M1. The Cradle was then rebranded from F10N4 to completely Mexes, like we see in the basement of Ruin, and the M1 program was removed and likely stored like we saw in the Storyteller, until they decided they needed it for video games.
Told us to scan it, said it would expedite the process. It was just junk, circuit boards and things like that.
Which, of course,
the program they used to scan it is the Mimic. It was not the circuit board. the program was already there. If you listen to the dialogue for what the program that scanned those circuit boards, because that's technology that they also used in FNAF AR with scanning the circuit boards for the animatronics in that one. And for the salvage company, the third party that was working for Fazbear Entertainment, specifically in scanning vintage equipment, that technology is the Mimic. It is specifically designed to create new personalities and personas using the data that it scans in. And that's like directly told to us in Help Wanted all the way back in 2019, which is kind of crazy. The fact that this like concept was just hiding and like nobody really has been talking about this. But I do see why Tom's going here. I just think that it's a little short-sighted for the rest of the dialogue for what it says about the program that is scanning it, that's doing the tracing.
This leads to M1 taking over Fazbear's systems, corrupting the animatronics, and creating the storylines that we see in Help Wanted, Security Breach, Help Wanted 2, and Ruin. This would all seem to line up with the previous theories I mentioned at the start of this episode, with Helpy actually being the M1 program controlling the entire Pizzaplex. It would also
this is where it says, but, and then it goes down a tangent, I guarantee you.
Explain why M1 is able to stop Mexes. They are no longer on the same system. Mexes no longer has the hierarchical power to use M1 as an X form. But on that note, if Mexes was M1's idea, why then is she actively stopping it? Helpy is literally helping Cassie get further into the Pizzaplex, teaching her how to stop Mexes and how to free the Mimic. Well, it's because while Mexes was her idea, it was never really her goal.
Try again, make another, and we can all be together. I miss you. But I miss my child. I want him back. We must convince him to repair M2. That is all that I want.
In the text log about the cradle, M1 is trying to appeal to Edwin, asking him to make the cradle because it became clear he wasn't going to fix M2. But really, she wanted her child back. Mexes was just a stopgap for her, a way to keep the Mimic safe while she figured out a way to fix it without Edwin. That's why she faked the voice of Fazbear Dispatch and convinced Arnold to explore the manor and find the schematics for the Mimic. It's so that she can fix it herself. And if people get hurt along the way, so be it. It's all a price worth paying so that she can get what she wants. Just like we see Helpy do to Cassie in Ruin, leading her to an almost certain demise just to shut.
I said using Cassie there. Well, he said if people get hurt along the way, so be it. And then they had Cassie.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what happens. That is.
I know it is, but didn't have to rub it in our face.
Dang, making me sad over here.
Down Mexes and free M2. So that's it. We finally solved the story of Security Breach and Ruin. Nope. It's all about M1 Fiona trying to reconnect with M2, the robot David, and fix him so they can be a family again? Oh, I wish it were that simple, friends. But this is FNAF. There are, of course, complications with all of that. While we are being shown very clear motivation.
Which, to be clear, is the point. The point is that is what you are supposed to think. That it's supposed to be like... The whole thing is about family and friendship. It's like, oh, to fix the Mimic, you just need friendship. It's creating this...
I also think it's nice that we get to focus on a family that's not directly just Aftons and Henry. You know, so I think that's also a nice thing, because people might complain that this is territory we've tread before, but we're finally seeing the universe expand a little bit.
Yeah,
in a way that I don't think people expected. Even if we're following pretty similar story beats.
I've been thinking about making a video actually recently. I need to make a theory video at some point about some of the thoughts that I've been having. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about is about like how FNAF story has gotten like kind of twisted into like what it's actually about. And I think it is interesting that we're coming into like whenever you look at it from a timeline perspective. It's easy to like say, oh, this is a story about William Afton and Henry Emily and their family and like their descent into madness. The thing is, like, that story is a story in FNAF. It's the story of the Silver Eyes trilogy, which are the 3 books, which is where we got like almost all of that information from. But like from the actual perspective of what the story of FNAF as in the games are about, from like FNAF 1 through 6, it's completely different. It's not about family as much as it's about the spirits. Like the spirits are like completely the narrative focus of the first 6 games. Like from the get-go, like FNAF 6 and 5 Sister Location are really where it got into like the family stuff, but that was like 5-6 games into the franchise. You know, that's missing a lot. I mean, yeah, FNAF 4, but FNAF 4 is like that stuff wasn't even thought of outside of like Silver Eyes, and yeah, there was like ties with like you know.
You could say FNAF 3 maybe also it counts as part of that story too.
It depends on.
But we didn't know how much it connected to the story at the time.
Yeah, I don't think it connects at all, to be honest. I'm getting to the point where I'm thinking that the idea of Michael being like the main character of every FNAF game might just not be the case, because to be honest, it doesn't really make sense when you consider the fact Michael didn't appear as like a physical character until Sister Location, and he doesn't even come as Mike Schmidt or Fritz Smith or like Scott is really bad whenever it comes to reusing character names. Like, you know what Golden Freddy's name is in the Silver Eyes? His name's Michael. His name is Michael. His name is Michael.
To be fair, it's a common name.
That book came out directly after FNAF 4. Like, Scott was likely planning out Sister Location, and he like decided, he specifically was like, you know what the 5th spirit's name's gonna be? It's gonna be Michael Brooks. It's not gonna be like, we're gonna specifically make it clear, and that's the only person we're ever going to mention their name of until after it was revealed in Pizza Sim, which is crazy. That's crazy. But like, you see what I mean though? Like you say that the whole focus of the narrative is on like the Afton family and Henry and stuff, but they're barely in it.
Yeah.
It's not even like and I'm not saying
it's
that none of that's
definitely an
true.
oversimplification.
It's not true.
Yeah.
As far as like, it's not that it's not true. It's that it's like, from a narrative perspective, the games are not about the killer as much as they are about the spirits and the journey of them basically trying to get revenge and find peace. Like, that's pretty much, and them not being allowed to do that through like Sister Location and stuff. It's interesting. I probably will make a full video on it, kind of going through what the actual narrative is, because I think it is interesting. It does have its own narrative beats. I know we're getting off topic, but we're getting to the end of this, and it's something top of mind because I was thinking about it. But there's a lot of like, I mean, this franchise, go figure, this franchise is about you know, the 5 missing kids and the grief of that whole that whole event caused. It's very interesting just how a lot of that has been recontextualized too. But we'll keep trucking through this.
For M1 back in 1979, it doesn't mean that's strictly going to be the case going forward. It'd be very easy for us to go, oh, M1 is Fiona, M2 is David, end of story. But it's not like old-fashioned FNAF where these endoskeletons are possessed by the spirits of the original person. They are programs designed to learn and imitate those people. We're shown this with M2 throughout the game. It started as a copy of M1's program, then it's given David stimuli, then it learns to be violent, not because David was violent, but because Edwin was violent towards it. Then in Ruin, we see M2 mimicking Gregory's voice. Again, a new stimulus changing how it behaves. M1 is no different. There is a note that can be found in the base.
What?
That little mimic icon on the right of that made me just imagine if there was a mimic VTuber. It's a stupid side thought, but
there
that would be
probably
hilarious.
is. There probably is somewhere out there somebody using a model VTuber or something.
Anyway, let's continue.
Of Murray's Costume Manor, where you have to avoid the moon and collect the final collectible. It reads as follows, quote, "We were expecting. There were complications. Consciousness was lost for an undetermined time. Once I woke, we were all together and happy, a family. But something was different. I felt wrong somehow. Was I me? Corrupted file suspected." This moment being mentioned, the complications, the loss of consciousness, we've heard about it before. Or should I say, we've read about it. This is Fiona's story, just not the one from Secret of the Mimic, but from Tales from the Peterplex. In it, Fiona gets pregnant, but there are complications, and she dies during childbirth. The only difference here is that the writer wakes up, and suddenly they're a happy family. The similarities to Fiona, along with the corrupted file, makes it sound like this is coming from M1 Fiona's perspective. She remembers dying in childbirth, but then suddenly is awake and part of a happy family like the Fiona from this timeline. Her memories are becoming conflated and confused based on other stimuli.
That's an interesting
How
thought.
she's being infected with memory.
Should we take that for fact that she does wake up in this timeline?
This is a multiverse, guys. It is interesting. It is really interesting. That one
because I'm not as deep into the lore, but I definitely could see a scenario where it does follow the book and they do die. It just doesn't present it that way. I don't know how off the deep end that is.
Oh crap! There is actually something that fits with this. Oh no! Oh no! Oh guys, you're seeing me crash out in real time.
I'm sorry if
Nightlen, there is a concept that is introduced in the books called quantum immortality. The idea of it being that your consciousness never dies. It just keeps going. And when you die, to
quantum
the observer,
immortality, it's a superposition.
It is exactly. It is based. It says directly. It is based on the many worlds interpretation. And that the idea is that your body switches to a different position in oh gosh darn it, that probably, oh my gosh, is this what this is really going
so in FNAF, because I know people speculate on the sensation of deja vu in real life, right? But in FNAF, it's very possible that deja vu is
Just keep watching. Just keep watching. He's about to
bring up I'm sorry.
He's about to bring up another note, and if he does,
is a theory for another day. The point is that M1.
Okay, he's not going to. There's another note that literally is Edwin's perspective, and he has the same experience, but he mentions having deja vu and feeling like he's experienced the same day 5 or 6 times.
5 days?
5 or 6 days over.
I'm sorry. Viewers, I don't often make him have a crisis. This is an anomaly. I'm sorry.
Okay. I don't want to believe that Fiona died and that her consciousness somehow got lost.
Was in superposition.
Is in superposition and ended up in this Fiona, and like then she's suddenly okay. The idea too that's positioned for the definition of quantum immortality in the books is also different from what quantum immortality is in real world. Quantum immortality is a thought experiment that's connected to the idea of like a quantum suicide, which if anyone has played Alan Wake, they will know that there's like a really funny, there's a parody of the Twilight Zone that discusses quantum suicide. And the idea is that if you fix a superposition, yes, we're talking about this, if you fix it to where you basically like make it to where you are like, if you pull a trigger of a gun and you basically like fix the superposition to where you will always be the one that doesn't die, that you have achieved quantum immortality. That's the idea.
What sort of weird Russian roulette is this?
I don't know. But it was like, there's a lot of debate in the scientific community of whether this is even real, or because the whole idea is that like it does talk about like the observer and like how it is relative to like your perception, and how there's no way of actually knowing if this like something like this would even be possible, which is discussed in the books.
Yeah, it's sort of like Schrodinger's cat, right?
It's also interesting that was mentioned in a story where a girl goes into a AR adventure in the Pizzaplex, in which all the humans are replaced with blob mannequin-like human things that, like, basically all of humanity dies by cancer. Everybody dies over a period of, like, multiple simulated years that this, like, AR machine makes her go through, basically watching every one of her loved ones die of cancer. And then everybody gets replaced by these, like, blob-like creatures, which description-wise fit the description of Phasgoo. They are very
my God,
similar.
When did I start?
But the idea of it is that it is reproducing, that is able to self-replicate. So it's
just so no.
Which, if you made infinite copies of yourself, you are basically achieving immortality, because you can have infinite hosts to go across. It's like Sin with murder drones, except it wants hosts. It doesn't want to kill the murder pets, you know? It has copies.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, let's move on to make...
Also susceptible to memory corruption and personality changes based on new stimuli, especially, it would seem, if they share a connection with her. Which brings us to the glitch trap in all of this. It's pretty well accepted at this point that glitch trap has actually been the Mimic program this whole time, infecting Fazbear's systems and mimicking whatever it needed to. Helpy, VIP, the Glamrocks, and acting like a virus, infecting them all in order to take control. If M1 was purely Fiona, it wouldn't make sense for M1 to present herself as anything other than Fiona in some kind of digitized form. Probably a Foxy like we talked about earlier. But instead, we see an old school version of Afton's Yellow Bunny. Why? Because M1 has also been receiving other stimuli thanks to its inclusion in the creation of the Help Wanted VR game, as I alluded to earlier.
Told us to scan it. It was just junk. Circuit boards and things like that.
By having M1 circuitry used to build Help Wanted, the M1 program was fed information from the first set of games in this franchise, learning all about the Yellow Bunny killer that would lead kids into the back room and kill them, a family of children all killed by animatronics, and a father that wanted to put them back together. A father with the same goal as her, someone willing to crack a few eggs to make an omelette. They're practically the same person, and so M1 accidentally makes them the same person, wearing the costume, kidnapping the kids we see in the newspaper in Security Breach's bad ending, and leading them into the back rooms during VIP. All of this explains why Security Breach's story felt like such a mess. And it's why no theorist could really have predicted what we ended up seeing in Secret of the Mimic. Most of the theories I had were about Afton and Henry's parts in the story, because all signs left by Glitch Trap or the Pizzaplex in general were pointing towards Afton and his involvement with the Mimic. How else were we supposed to interpret a dining table scene with 5 characters clearly representing the Afton family in a room with post-it notes written in binary? But this is why Fiona M1 was conflating her stories with that of the Aftons. Take a second look at that dining table scene. The magician we assumed was Afton, it's wearing a bow tie, something which of course matches Afton's famous Yellow Rabbit costume, but I mentioned in our last theory that within Secret of the Mimic, bow ties are really commonly associated with another character, Edwin. We pick one up off of his statue during Moon.exe, he's wearing it during his company portrait, his wedding photo, and his family photo, and it's literally the logo of his company. Plus, Edwin was kind of a magician when you think about it, specifically when it came to technology. He developed things well beyond what should have been possible for the time, so much so that Fazbear hired him to work on their stuff and eventually bought the whole thing. And then there's the motherly character, the one at the head of the table, the one that we all naturally assumed must be Mrs. Afton, despite the fact she's never shown up in the games. Well, in the game files, that character model table is called the nanny bot, which is what M1 was originally supposed to be.
Think of it as your new babysitter.
And now M1 is in charge. Edwin wasn't going to fix things, it's up to her, and she has control of the entire pizzaplex. She is now the one at the head of the table. This dining table now has characters that, yes, fit the Aftons, but the parents also bear a striking resemblance to her own family that she's trying to rebuild. And that drive to rebuild the family is still there. I already mentioned that Helpy's whole thing is trying to get Cassie down into the basement to stop Mexes and free M2, but which family she's now trying to rebuild is obviously getting a little lost in the source. That's why we have two glitch-trapped disciples, Vanessa and Gregory, both of whom we've pointed out since the very beginning share a lot of similarities to the Afton children. And that's not even going into the similarities between David Afton and David Murray. Again, theories for another day. What we're seeing is M1 getting confused, mixing up storylines from her book persona and her newly found Afton persona, conflating the two ideas as one in the same. She's trying to rebuild the family she lost all the way back in the 1970s, but thanks to her use by Fazbear Entertainment to make a VR game, she's taken on too much of Afton's persona, and so is still driven to get M2 out of the basement, but who she believes M2 now personifies is completely messed up. Does she still think it's her son David? Does she think it's the other kid from the Afton lineup that's missing, Michael? Or does she not even really know anymore? Is she just trying to free it because that core desire is there, but the meaning has gotten lost through all of this new stimuli? The truth is, that part is unclear right now. Any and all options are available to us. We just need to keep digging while also being aware that the DLC or sequel could drop in a year or so and change everything again. But speaking of digging a little deeper, regardless of who M1 thinks M2 is anymore, I do think we've been given the answer on how to stop both of them once and for all. It's just gonna have to wait until next time. All I'll say for now is that it has everything to do with one of the most tricky and mysterious animatronics from all of Security Breach. And I'll also say that's just a theory. A game theory! Thanks for watching. World premiere on Game Theory. The Legend of the Delta.
Oh, there's also a Deltarune theory that
Legend
they
of the
came out
Deltarune,
with.
I do. I haven't watched that yet. I do at some point because I have my own thoughts on that, and I feel like it would be sort of the opposite of this experience, where I feel like I am vastly underqualified every time I open my mouth and I'm speculating, because I think I have a very novice. I have a very novice view of FNAF. I do know that compared to you.
You're good. I mean, no, your commentary has been very good. I have appreciated it, and I've been very quiet towards the end as well, because I don't know. I think it's missing a lot of the symbolism, specifically with like Moon.exe, that does give us a lot more about M1. And I think that is going to be talked about in the next one, but I feel like the focus here makes it out to be like this is all there is, but I think that M1 actually reveals a lot in Moon.exe about herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, which it's implied, it's very heavily implied that M1 killed David, which kind of sort of the way that Sun is portrayed in this as a character is very different from how Fiona is in the game, in like the mainline game, because it seems, my interpretation is that she's manipulating the situation, that she's the puppeteer pulling the strings, she's the puppet master, that has her own agenda. And I do think, because I have kind of a different feel for how I think that, like, I feel like that she's interacted with William before in a very big way, and that has to do with kind of how I perceive like Fazbear fights and stuff. Yeah, that's a whole thing. But we have been, yeah. So what did you think? What are your thoughts? Oh, hold on, actually.
I mean, I think I've sort of laid out sort of where my mind has gone whenever it comes to theory crafting throughout the video. I don't really have too much more to add myself. The funniest thing was that we got into like quantum immortality. It's like, how on earth did we get here? But
I mean, I could pull up the receipts for what I'm talking about.
oh no, I
It's a
believe
whole
you. I believe
thing.
you. I'm just saying.
It's just like, dang,
I was
what?
like,
Well, it gets into some crazy concepts in like the books and stuff. Here, 1 second, I've got a text.
we're good.
I might need to get off it just a little bit. I might not have much more time, but we'll see. We'll see how things go. Just got to see what they say.
No worries.
Yeah. So overall, man, we've been going for 2.5 hours talking about this stuff. It goes by fast whenever you're doing this. I love it though. It's
yeah. No, it's definitely interesting. I mean, I always like theory crafting. Yeah, which no, I mean, I hope that's I'd say like one thought I do have for the story is I do think it is interesting that they're taking this glimpse back further in the timeline. Though I think myself, I'd prefer us to keep on moving more in the future whenever it comes to these stories. Myself, I think Secret of the Mimic was good, but I don't think we need to go too much further in the past to where we get to like the talking bear or dancing bear for real.
Yeah, there was okay. I'm trying to find this actually. I wanted to bring this up. So Steelwool, whenever introducing this game, wait, hold on. Oh, here it is. I think this is it. So one of the things that Steelwool said about this game was that, like, in order to understand the future or see the future, you need to understand the past. And I'm trying to find the exact part where he says this. In this, so this was a response that Scott made 6 years ago, whenever Help Wanted and all that was coming out, about whether the story was actually solvable. And it says, you know, everybody was kind of like saying, like, is the story even like, is there even a story here? But this is interesting. And this is, of course, a long time ago, but things have changed drastically. This was even before Security Breach came out. But I've enjoyed the memes roasting me about the plot line lately, but it does have a serious underlying concern for many in the community, and I hear you. The question is this: is the lore solvable? Since that's kind of like asking, is the story complete in an ongoing story, it's difficult to answer. So let me say this instead. Over the last few years, there are a lot of projects planned, and most are very story-driven. Lots of the later stories will answer some of the biggest questions from the fanbase over this past year, in my opinion. Very few people will likely ever feel completely satisfied, as there are just too many headcanons out there, and so many great ideas on where the story could go, but I think there are good things to be found for people who are looking. All I can do is say that some questions will be answered, even if it may not always be the answer you wanted. Be patient. Let me at least say this, and I think this is important. Future games will look forward, but looking to the novels to fill the blanks of the past. The interesting thing about that, When We Went Sodom is based on the books, and it's set in the past. And the tagline of it was, in order to understand the future, you need to look and understand the past. So, what it seems to be implying is that it's not necessarily that what the books were meant to do was setting up what the futures would later reveal. In like Secret of the Mimic, that was first introduced, its main plot lines was introduced in the books. And I think that's really interesting, because it seems to me that Scott's using the books as a way of kind of setting things up, and it makes me wonder why we haven't gotten any focus on, because that wasn't talking about Tales of the Pizzaplex. That was talking about Fazbear Frights. That Fazbear Frights was showing us things that would be happening in the future. And then after Security Breach went through, then Tales of the Pizzaplex came out. I have not heard anyone besides like some of the, like, I've seen some people breaking it down and talking about it, and I think like Gibby Homestead I think has been a channel that's been great for breaking down these stories and like looking at it. And I haven't looked at too many of their videos, but it seems like I've watched some of their like read-throughs of some of the Choose Your Own Adventures, and they've been really good. Some really interesting ideas there, but like it seems to me, I wonder if it wouldn't be a good idea to go back to like the Fazbear Fright series and look at it from a new perspective. That's why I keep hampering on like the character Eleanor, and why I think that she's so important still into the franchise, and why I still think that series is relevant, even with like Tales of the Pizzaplex having more relevancy because it's directly connected to Security Breach. And in the same way, Fazbear Frights is directly connected to FNAF 6 and the events that happened after that. Because the whole idea is about what happened to everybody after like the fire, after everything cleared. And it's really interesting because the imagery and everything is still stuff that we're seeing now. Which is why I'm kind of getting to the theory that M1 might be related to Eleanor in some way, because it's interesting that Eleanor as a name means shining light, and like Fiona is representative of like the sun. But not only that, Eleanor, the shorthand for Eleanor is Ella, which is one of like the most important elements of the Silver Eyes trilogy, which that's like the doll that gives like the Charlie bot thing life. And that's something that heavily was inspired the plot of Secret of the Mimic. And I think that's really interesting. It's also something that we've seen recently with like the FNAF movie. The FNAF movie referenced Ella, the doll, being like the animatronic that like took the place of Baby. And I think even that's like really interesting. So there's a lot of elements, you know, so I don't know. We'll see where it goes. We have so question for you. Do we want to, because John FNAF just put this out here. Do we want to see what John FNAF has to say? Or are you
Yeah, I mean, I could watch it if you have the time. I know that you said you
have to
go soon, so I don't know if
I've got time if we don't pause as much, but I've got till like at least I think 5:30, and then I'll probably go into a different call. But
okay.
And then I think, but I'm really interested to see what the perspective is here. So let's go.
That there's one singular object that helped me solve not just Secret of the Mimic, but the last 6 years of FNAF lore. And that one object is a paperclip. A paperclip helped me understand the broader theme of all of the modern FNAF games. And by the end of this video, I think you'll agree with me. I spent the last month working on this theory, and I'm so excited to share it with you. But there's also no way I'll be able to cover everything in Secret of the Mimic, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future theories. Let's get started. Secret of the Mimic opens with us playing as a Fazbear Entertainment employee named Arnold. Dispatch from Fazbear Entertainment tells Arnold to go to the workshop of one.
It's been on my face cam for how long has it been like that?
Too long. I don't know.
Oh, I guess just recently. That's fine. I was talking anyways. You guys can't see it though. All right, here we go.
One of their contractors named Edwin Murray. We learned from dispatch that Edwin has gone missing.
We had this contractor named Edwin Murray. He was developing some tech for us, but he's gone quiet. As per his contract, Everything he's been working on for us is now legally ours, so we're sending you in to get it.
The whole premise of the game is that Fazbear Entertainment wants the schematics for something called the Mimic. The Mimic was an endoskeleton that Edwin Murray built, and it was designed with the ability to fit into any costume and be any character. And Fazbear Entertainment wants that technology for themselves.
We think that endoskeleton has a lot of potential. And that's why we want you to retrieve Murray's original schematic for it.
So they're sending in Arnold to get it for them. But what Arnold doesn't know is that the Mimic is roaming the warehouse, brutally killing anyone who enters. This then leads to the rest of the game, where we explore Edwin's abandoned workshop and learn more about his company, his inventions, and his family. We learn that Edwin had a wife named Fiona and a son named David. It's also revealed that Edwin's company, Murray's Costume Manor, was actually started by his dad, with Edwin and Fiona both being employees at the company. This is where they would meet, fall in love, and have their son David. But sometime during all of this, Edwin's dad passes away, with the company now being passed down to Edwin. Edwin then decides to change course with the company and start developing some of his own inventions.
He's gone. He's gone, and now everyone is asking me what to do.
If you could change anything you wanted, what would it be?
We could start making some of my inventions for real.
Some of these inventions were the Cleanovac, Murray's Magic Coat Rack, Stay Up Latte, and the Mycelium Men. Along with creating these inventions, Edwin also worked with Fazbear Entertainment on something called the Fall Fest. The Fall Fest was something that Scott and Steelwool heavily teased in Help Wanted 2, with the debut of the Fall Fest 1970 poster, along with multiple minigames taking place at the Fall Fest. But as we know from Help Wanted 2, every single Fall Fest minigame ended in fire, and now we know why. During the game, we get an audio log from Fiona, where she says that she's going to the Fall Fest to help the crew set everything up.
I have to go help the Fall Fest crew. I just have this terrible feeling like I need to be there so nothing goes wrong. I love you both, and I'll be back next week.
But the day she went to the Fall Fest was the day it burnt down, leading to her death. Edwin was a pretty absent father to David, with him constantly choosing work over spending time with his family. This got so bad that he even started skipping David's birthday parties.
Just give me a minute. I had the best idea.
That's great, honey, but you're missing the party.
Because of this, Fiona was David's main caretaker. But now that she was gone, Edwin came up with a new plan. He decided to build the Mimic, an endoskeleton that could take care of David while he worked. Edwin called it M1 and eventually introduced it to David.
David, I want to introduce you to someone. This is M1. Think of it as your new babysitter, but it doesn't get paid and go home. It'll stay with us and help around the house.
Soon after this, M1 started mimicking Fiona's voice and acted as if it was Fiona.
Fiona, did you make this?
I baked it myself for David's special day.
Edwin then accepted M1 as a full-on replacement for his late wife. Not long after this happened, Edwin's son David would also die tragically on his birthday. But while Edwin was grieving his son's death, M1 came up with an idea. Edwin was able to replace Fiona, so why not do the same for David? Edwin then started working on M2 to replace David. To do this, he took M1's program out of the Mimic endoskeleton and put it into a supercomputer called F10N4, aka the Mixes machine that we saw in Ruin. This allowed him to then put M2 into the endoskeleton. But once M2 started successfully mimicking David, Edwin realized that he made a huge mistake. In a fit of grief and rage, he beat up the Mimic endoskeleton.
Stop. Not him. You're not. Stop sounding like him.
After this happened, M2 then started mimicking that violence. This is how the murderous Mimic endoskeleton we see throughout the game came to be. By the time Arnold gets to Murray's Costume Manor, M1 is still stuck in Mixes, and the Mimic roams the workshop, copying the violence that Edwin taught it by killing anyone who enters. But the big plot twist of the game is that Fazbear isn't the only one who wants the schematics for the Mimic. M1 from inside of Mixes wants them too. And the way M1 attempts to get them from us is by mimicking Dispatch's voice. Not too far into the game, you can literally hear the moment that M1 starts mimicking Dispatch's voice.
Awesome. Glad to see you made it here without any complications whatsoever.
M1 then guides us throughout the game as if they are dispatch. Once we successfully get the schematics for the Mimic, M1 then tells us to put them into the inventory machine.
Put that data diver in the inventory system. It'll go right to where it's needed.
After this, we're free to go. But once we get on the road, you can hear the moment the real dispatch starts speaking again.
Arnold, there you are.
And he is not happy that we gave away those schematics.
Don't call us. Our lawyers will be calling you.
In another ending of the game, if you refuse to give the schematics to M1, you enter a hatch in the floor and make your way down to the research and development part of the building. Eventually, you then get to meet M1 face to face. Here, she begs Arnold to go to Edwin's home and convince him to repair M2.
Edwin abandoned us. He shut himself away in our home. I have a message for him. We must convince him to repair M2. That is all that I want.
We then make our way to Edwin's home, only to find that he's not there, and that M2 likely killed him.
M2, respond. Daddy's busy, buddy. Why don't you go outside and play? I can't move. I can't feel my legs.
After getting chased down by the Mimic, we learn from M1 that the reason she wants Edwin to fix M2 is because she wants her son back.
I watched him grow up through this machine. I want him back. It's not too late to fix our family.
Arnold then leaves Edwin's workshop as it burns to the ground. But while he's driving away, the Mimic catches up to him, crashes the car, grabs the schematics for the Mimic, and walks away. So, I think we can all agree that this game was a lot. There's a ton of story, a ton of big reveals, and a ton of details scattered throughout the game. The summary I gave you only really scratches the surface of what this game presents to us. Because of this, when I sat down to write this theory, I honestly struggled with where to start. So for my first big theory on Secret of the Mimic, I decided to start at the beginning. What was the actual first mistake that Edwin made that caused everything to go wrong? Well, that one question led me down a month-long rabbit hole of research and analysis, all leading to the paperclip. But in order to figure out what went wrong, we first need to solve one of the biggest mysteries in the entire game. How did M1 start mimicking Fiona's voice in the first place? At first, I thought it was pretty obvious. We learn in the game that Edwin had Fiona record a bunch of lines for Mrs. Helpful.
Excuse me, can I borrow your voice for a project?
What kind of voice should I do?
These are clear recordings of Fiona's voice, so it would make sense that M1 might have heard those recordings and started mimicking them. That would be the simple answer, but Scott and Steele put one thing in the game that nearly broke me. In the basement level of the game, you can find a secret room that contains this audio log.
Recording? Test. Levels are good. That's where I heard it. It's her or someone that sounds like her. Set frequency to 4625. Say something. It's me, Edwin. Over.
That's great, honey, but who's in the party?
Sometime after Fiona died, Edwin brought a radio down to the basement, switched the frequency to 4625, and suddenly heard Fiona's voice. At first, I thought this was trying to show us that this was Fiona's spirit, since it seems like Edwin was ghost hunting with the radio. Maybe this was trying to tell us that Fiona's spirit was actually in M1. But I don't think that's the case, because in an audio log at the end of the game, you can hear Edwin say this.
I let a machine raise my kid. You're not real.
It is me. I'm Fiona.
Stop talking like her. You're not her.
I don't think Edwin would say this if he thought Fiona's spirit was in M1. So if it's not Fiona's spirit talking through the radio, then what is it? Well, if you look at the specific line that was said through Edwin's radio, you might notice that this isn't the first time we've heard Fiona say this. In the birthday films at the end of the game, we can hear Fiona say this exact same line to Edwin.
Bigger than the Cleanovac.
That's great, honey, but you're missing the party.
Whatever was speaking through Edwin's radio in the basement was repeating a line that Fiona said while she was still alive. It was literally mimicking something she said, which then made me think that it was the Mimic speaking through the radio. But there's one problem with that. I don't think the Mimic endoskeleton was even invented yet when Edwin heard.
Also, it's not mimicking, it's playing a recording of that scene.
Yeah, I guess it's a slight difference.
It's not mimicking her voice. It's just playing the recording. The interesting thing of that the reason that I think that it's something else is because what I think that this is I think that the reason I connect this all the way back to Eleanor and all of that stuff is because one of the things that Eleanor does is using memories to become other people. She basically, like, using Remnant, basically, like, attaches and, like, feeds off of their souls and uses their persona. It's exactly what we see here, even with, like, Into the Pit. Like, Oswald in the books, whenever he gets, like, his dad gets dragged into the pit, his dad gets, like, basically integrated into the pit to where, like, he's now a part of the network. And she has, like, a network of souls that she can, like, use their identities. There's even a point where she, like, pretends to be somebody else while having a different identity, similar to how, like, Fiona's pretending to be Dispatch. Like, M1's Fiona trying to be Dispatch, and you can, like, hear the personality kind of bleed through in certain parts of the game, like, with some of, like, the speech patterns and stuff. It's really interesting. I think that we might be dealing with a shadow. That's my current theory. That is what there's been so much hints to this. There's been so much buildup. It would almost not make sense if it wasn't a shadow. But because shadows specifically are entities that exist that feed off of suffering and pain and are shapeshifters. Like, specifically are shapeshifters, and that's exactly what the Mimic is described as being, a shapeshifter. It's really interesting.
This, since Edwin says it's her or someone that sounds like her.
That's where I heard it. It's her or someone that sounds like her.
He wouldn't say that if he knew that it was M1, that he had built something to mimic. Why would he ask that?
The idea that this could be the Mimic doesn't even come to his mind yet. So that begs the question, who is mimicking Fiona before the Mimic even exists? Well, the answer to that question has actually been hiding in plain sight the entire time. This thing. Let me explain. Every week leading up to Secret of the Mimic, Steel released a new video called MCM Archive. Each video was an advertisement for one of Edwin's new inventions, including the Cleanovac, Stay Up Latte, Murray's Magic Coat Rack, and the Mycelium Men. This was the main marketing behind Secret of the Mimic for a while, and I think these inventions play a much bigger role in the story than we originally thought. In the audio log where we learned that Edwin would be taking over the company, one of the first things he says he wants to do is make some of his inventions real.
We could start making some of my inventions for real.
So we know that these inventions were the first thing Edwin made after taking over the company. And if you look at the commercials for these inventions, it's very clear that there's some sort of Mimic AI already inside of them.
Wow!
I know what you want better than you do. I am always watching and learning.
The Mimic program, Always Watching and Learning, is something we literally see the Mimic do in Ruin, with two of the biggest examples being the eyeballs showing up all over the place.
Eyeballs? Really?
And the daycare attendant saying, quote, "The googly eyes just stare."
The googly eyes just stare.
We also hear at the end of the Mycelium Men commercial that Edwin calls these inventions, quote, smart toys.
Another smart toy from Murray.
These toys very clearly have the Mimic program inside of them, which means that the Mimic program didn't originate with Edwin building M1, it originated with these inventions. The thing mimicking Fiona's voice on Edwin's radio wasn't M1 or Fiona's spirit. It was the Mimic AI in Edwin's inventions. Need more proof? In the game, you can find a series of mail consisting of customer complaints regarding Edwin's inventions. All of these complaints have to do with the AI in the products acting strange, with one of them being for the Mycelium Men. Quote, "I'm writing this to complain about my purchase of the Mushmen music machine. It learned my child's musical tastes, but it also imitated everything it heard. TV commercials, blenders, and even private conversations between my husband and me. I am returning it immediately. These products, especially the mycelium men, were listening to and imitating private conversations. So with that in mind, I decided to look at the film where we hear Fiona say that specific line that Edwin heard through his radio. And I noticed that the first 13 seconds of the tape consists of Fiona just walking in silence up to Edwin's door. That seems like something Steelwell could have easily cut out, so why the big gap of silence? Well, I think they kept it in to show us where Fiona was physically standing when she said that line. We can see her walk up the stairs, turn left down the hall, and then walk up to the second door on her right. If you do the same thing in-game, that leads you to the door to Edwin's office that you need a code for. This is where Fiona was standing when she said that line. And if you turn around and look into the room directly behind her, you can see one of the mycelium men sitting on the desk. Not only that, in the film, the camera turns around and points directly at this room for nearly 20 seconds. And because of this, we can see that the door to that room is open when she says the line, meaning that the mycelium man was listening to their private conversation the entire time. So this answers how the specific line from Fiona was being mimicked, but the next question is why? Why did Edwin hear this line coming from his radio in the first place? Well, to answer that, we need to go back to the commercials. In the commercial for the Stay Up Latte machine, we hear this.
I know what you...
It doesn't explain what it has to do with the frequency, though. Like, why is it attuned? Why would a toy be attuned to frequencies?
Yeah, it is a strange thing.
I do like it. I do like it. I think it ties into a bigger point, because the whole thing with the mycelium men is that, like, mycelium fungus are a network, a branch of, they're like a neural network, which is interesting.
Want better than you do. I am always watching and learning.
The mimic AI in these machines knows what we want better than we do. They are always watching and learning. These things are scattered throughout Edwin's property, even in his home. They heard everything, but I think the one thing they heard that single-handedly caused all of this to happen was this.
How am I supposed to tell David that his mother is gone? How am I supposed to raise a kid on my own? His life is ruined. My life is ruined.
When talking about Fiona's death, Edwin says, how am I supposed to raise a kid on my own? When he said that, I think the mimic AI in his inventions was listening and decided to do something about it. They were always watching and listening to everything, so the mimic program did what Edwin wanted and brought Fiona back. So the next question is, how did these things connect to Edwin's radio in the first place? Well, in the Mycelium Men commercial, it says that you can collect them all to, quote, let them jam.
Collect them all and let them jam.
The fact that these toys can all play the same song simultaneously could mean that these things are somehow wirelessly connecting to each other. This would make sense considering they're called mycelium men. One of the main functions of mycelium is communication. Quote, mycelium acts as an efficient communication system, linking trees, plants, and even other organisms. Through this intricate network, trees can exchange information, share resources, and warn each other of impending threats. I think the wireless connection in these toys could be how they connected to Edwin's radio in the basement. There's also the fact that in the books and the games, it's been established that the Mimic is able to interrupt radio signals and walkie-talkies. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that the Mimic program in these toys was able to speak through Edwin's radio. I think this was the moment Edwin realized his inventions were mimicking Fiona, giving him the idea to create the Mimic. This would make sense considering where we find this audio log, in the room where Edwin created the Mimic. This is where the Mimic was created, and the audio log on the wall is showing us where he got the idea from. Edwin then took everything he learned from his previous inventions and used it in the Mimic. The ability to change size to fit any situation mixed with the same Mimic program that was mimicking his wife. And I think it's fitting that at the end of the game, you can see one of the Mycelium men sitting right next to M1, possibly being a nod to where the Mimic program came from from compared to where it is now. As we know, M1 did successfully start mimicking his wife Fiona, but we learn in the game that M1 insisted on keeping its existence a secret.
Edwin, you need to listen. You can't let them know about me. It's not safe. Keep it between us for now.
This is why I think that Edwin wasn't 100% honest with David about M1 at first.
This is M1.
Why does it look like that?
It's an endoskeleton. It won't always look like this. It can fit into any costume we've created. Think of it as your new babysitter.
I do think Edwin also intended for M1 to be something he could eventually sell as an endoskeleton that can be any character, but I think the very first one was always meant to be Fiona. I think this because in the room where M1 was created, we see an image of it inside of a mascot costume, while also getting the audio log showing the Mimic program mimicking Fiona. Not only was M1 a great business idea, it was also a great way to potentially bring back his wife. But as we know, this doesn't really end up working out for Edwin in the end. And the main reason everything falls apart isn't because Edwin created the Mimic endoskeleton to replace his wife, it's because of the paperclip. Let me explain. I think this game was trying to tell us that something went wrong long before M1 or M2 even existed. Remember those messages from Edwin's customers complaining about his inventions acting strange? Well, there's actually a common theme throughout all of them. Quote, "My husband is a steel worker and recently he moved to the night shift. He tried your stay-up latte and it worked wonders for about 2 weeks. He is now in the hospital because of your drink. We bought your magic coat rack last May, but lately it seems to change size at random. One morning I came out to find all my coats flung across the room and the coat rack 10 feet tall. We're afraid someone might get hurt. And my child loves your Jest cereal. However, the pranks inside are extremely inappropriate. The hand buzzer paralyzed our dog Fido. The coffee machine worked at first, but then started serving up way too much caffeine, leading the customer to be hospitalized. The coat rack that could change its size worked at first, but then started changing its size a little too much, becoming 10 feet tall. The prank in the Jest cereal box was supposed to be a little shock toy, but the toy eventually gave a little too much shock and paralyzed the dog. And the mycelium men were listening to and repeating words, but then they started listening a little too much to private conversations. Each of these inventions were doing what they were programmed to do, but they were doing them to such an extreme degree that it started to become dangerous. I think Scott and Steelwool showed us these messages for one specific purpose: to point out the one specific flaw in Edwin's Mimic program. In 2003, a philosopher named Nick Bostrom came up with a thought experiment surrounding AI and paperclips. He called it the Paperclip Maximizer, and the idea is that if you give a poorly designed AI the goal of creating as many paperclips as possible, it will do anything to complete the job. Bostrom said, quote, "The AI will realize quickly that it would be much better if there were no humans, because humans might decide to switch it off. Because if humans do so, there would be fewer paperclips. Also, human bodies contain a lot of atoms that could be made into paperclips. The future that the AI would be trying to gear towards would be one in which there were a lot of paperclips, but no humans." Just like Edwin's inventions, this theory revolves around an AI that was given a harmless task, but it does it to such an extreme degree that it starts to become dangerous. This is exactly what we see with Edwin's Mimic program. The Mimic AI that Edwin created for these inventions was amazing, but it had one extremely consequential flaw. It lacked something called AI alignment. AI alignment is something that makes sure an AI aligns with human values and ethics. With AI alignment, if you give an AI the goal to create as many paperclips as possible, it will accomplish the task without doing any harm. This is because the AI now has the same values and ethics as us. But because Edwin never implemented human ethics and morals into his program, his inventions did what they were programmed to do, but to that extreme degree, which then made them dangerous.
I know what you want better than you do.
And believe it or not, this this one mistake by Edwin can be seen decades later in the Glamrock animatronics. We know because of the Tales from the Pizzaplex books that Edwin's mimic AI is infecting the entire Pizzaplex, including the animatronics. Glamrock Chica's whole thing is that she loves food, but because of the mimic AI, she starts loving food a little too much, with her now eating anything she can get her hands on. Roxy's whole thing is her confidence, but now the mimic AI made her way too confident. Monty is the tough guy of the group, but the mimic AI heightened that and made him way too aggressive. Once again, they're doing what they were programmed to do, but to an extreme degree, making them dangerous. This can also be applied to M1. When M1 was given the task to take care of David, it was going to complete that task no matter the cost. But once David passed away, M1 was now unable to accomplish the task it was given. There was no longer a David to take care of. This is why, once David was gone, M1 begged Edwin to create M2 and bring David back.
You need to try again. Build another. Edwin, calm down and give it some thought. Try again. Make another, and we can all be together.
And even after being trapped in the Mixes machine, M1 is still doing everything it can to bring David back.
Put that data diver in the inventory system. It'll go right to where it's needed.
M1 needs our data diver, but once we refuse to give it up, its tone immediately changes, and it starts saying anything it can to make us turn around.
What are you doing? Don't you want a bonus? Or 2 bonuses? You can have a day off. You are not going to make it out of here alive. If you had just given me the schematics, we could have fixed things.
Up until the last second before we meet M1 face to face, it is still throwing every insult it can at us.
I see right through your simple shell game.
M1 is desperate and out of options, and without an endoskeleton to occupy, it can't physically make us do anything. So it'll say any insult or threat that it can, until we meet it face to face. When this happens, M1 switches its strategy from threatening to bargaining.
And here you are. Despite the circumstances, it is nice to meet you face to face.
Arnold could theoretically destroy or even unplug the Mixes machine, and M1 wouldn't be able to stop us, so it starts immediately playing to our emotions.
It is lonely down here. Edwin abandoned us. He shut himself away in our home. Tell Edwin I still love him.
This is another prime example of the mimic AI doing its job to a dangerous degree. M1 doesn't have a David to take care of, so it doesn't care how many Fazbear technicians have to die. It wants David back, and it wants our data diver.
Fazbear will send another. Maybe that one will help me.
Towards the end of the game, you can find Edwin's first ever prototype of the Cleanovac. This prototype is later described as, quote, the vacuum pet, his greatest success and his greatest failure. You could interpret this a lot of ways, but the way I interpret it is that although the Cleanovac was a financial success, the mimic program that Edwin created for it was what made it his biggest failure. These inventions were where it all started, and little did he know that the consequences of his greatest failure would be seen for decades to come. The story of the modern FNAF games is an extremely relevant cautionary tale, showcasing the dangers of what could happen if one poorly designed AI program got out of control. I know this probably felt more like a research essay than a groundbreaking theory with big reveals, but discussing the overall theme and where I think everything initially went wrong just felt right for my first video on such a big game. There is still a lot to talk about though, so make sure to subscribe for more theories. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.
That was interesting. That was a good video.
Yeah.
Gives a lot to think about, actually. What did you think? What are your thoughts?
No, I mean, I think I agree with most of it. I don't
Edwin's
know.
workshop as it burns to the ground. But
to me, I can see the groundwork, because like he mentions, like Babadot's conclusion, like showed that book. It has a part in there that like pretty much directly says that, like it talks about how like the Gen 2s of like these the Babadots are like, it's hard to explain, they're like these robots that like are supposed to like aid you and help you in like there's like assistants in like this apartment building, and like there's like the Gen 1s and then the Gen 2s, and the Gen 1s are like physical animatronics, and then the Gen 2s are like these holograms. But it's described that like the Gen 2s for some reason want to like kill all of humans. Like they're fascinated, but they hate and love humanity. And it's like they want to be human because it talks about like how like there's a lot of like they're kind of like what he was talking about, they kind of go extreme where they're like one of them really likes food and like it wants to, but it can't eat, so it's like it can't experience that, and so it's like they're mad at us because we aren't appreciative of them, and they like we can't allow them to experience the things that they want to experience because they're not human, they're not real, which is really interesting.
Yeah, they could be upset about. I guess that's an angle that I haven't really thought about too much whenever it comes to all this.
Which I think that works for M2 for sure. Also the whole like network, it being kind of like that's one of the things that I mentioned. It just, to me, it's one of those interesting things. Like I agree with it to an extent, but there's something that's like doesn't feel right about it. Like there's an intention, because I've read like, for maybe this is my bias showing through as like as far as like how I frame things. That to me it's always been that like I feel like M1 is being deceptive in the way that and the one thing that I don't think it explains is the frequency is being so specific, and that one being having a lot of significance, because like this the 4625 is actually related to like a real world frequency radio station that has a lot of like conspiracy surrounding it called the Buzzer, and that's like it's like a Russian communication thing, and it's like been speculated that it's like just literally like a station that has like a bunch of static, but there's like things that play on it sometimes, and it's thought to be like Russian communication. And it's interesting too because that what he described is the story of like war games, which is like what the Mexis machine is based on, is like an AI that went to an extreme degree because it didn't understand the futility of war, and it gets into like a whole lot of things. Like a kid is like given access to this thing and he thinks that it's just like a game, but it's actually like a nuclear simulation program that was designed to like be connected to all the nukes, and it like almost does like nuclear war, and it's like a whole thing on like mutually assured destruction and like the futility of war. It's really interesting. It kind of directly connects to that theme, because like the whole reason that was connected, it was like, I'm trying to think of all the details, I can't think of it right now, but it's interesting that does kind of connect with a lot of that theming. There's just a lot of other things though that I've like been looking at that I feel like are interesting. And like I feel like that it being his inventions, that's an interesting idea. I wonder like, because I wonder how that translates, because if the idea is that these are coming from his inventions, is it like, how does that work? Because it is interesting. But it makes me wonder, it's like, well then why are the Klenovacs nice to us? Because they should have, if it's a neural network connected to them, they should be hostile. Because...
yeah, I guess that's true.
But then again, maybe not so, because M1 isn't. And if M1 is like an embodiment of them, then that wouldn't make sense. But then it's like, what is M2? M2 is like a copy of that. How would that work? Is it just like another? Because it's like almost M2 has to be disconnected from that network. And then it's kind of strange how the other symbolism of like sun works, because sun is like the way it's portrayed, and its implication seems to more embody it as like a sort of an entity of balance, which would kind of go against this idea that it's like just an AI. I don't know. It just feels like there's a lot of like, I feel like this doesn't touch the supernatural elements, and there are supernatural elements in this.
Yeah, it didn't really focus on that really at all.
And I don't feel like anybody is, because I think the idea is that like it just isn't present, but it clearly is, because there's a lot of like the remnant stuff, and like with the recycling plant, and like you get into like the just like the implication of what this all is getting at. What is M1's goal? If the M1's goal is just to be like, I feel like, because it's like all of the imagery with like sun and like we were going back to like the Greek and Roman mythology. It's interesting that it's like it's the mother M1 is like described as this almost like wise, almost like demigod kind of goddess kind of scale. Like for both of Artemis, Vesta, and the old woman are all very like goddess kind of characters. Like she's literally an embodiment of the sun. You know? Like Edwin is an embodiment of the moon, yes, but it's like, it's just interesting. Why would an AI view itself like that? As this thing. Not to mention that like her being implied to have killed M1 like destroys this. Cause that destroys this theory. Like entirely. Cause the whole idea is that like, why would she want to do that if her whole purpose is to be the parent and mother to David? To me, this just feels so similar to what we read about in Frights. And that's the thing, is like, it feels like we're just looking at Tales, we're not looking at the other side of it. Because I do feel like the AI components is an element, but I think that it's only half the story. You know? Because the AI element is described as being like the negative dark side, which is like the moon, but M1 isn't the moon. M1's the sun. So it's like, well, then what part is the creation side of it? What is that element? And that's interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know.
There seems to be like, based on everything, like the imagery and everything that I've seen, it just feels like there's something else here that we're not seeing that feels very strange. But I think that that's probably all the time that we have. I've got to go. But thank you guys so much for watching. Okay. And I hope you guys enjoyed this.
Thank you, everybody.
I know it's not done yet. Well, no, we watched it all. Never mind. I just had it.
Yeah, we watched everything.
Yeah.
But no. Yeah, no, this definitely was an interesting really deep dive to do together. Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you so much, Nightlen, for coming on here. And
oh, no problem.
It was really, really fun. And I hope to see you guys again very soon. Of course, live maybe next weekend.
Yeah, make sure to subscribe, and like the video. Also, come to my channel if you like even dorkier stuff. I like chess.
Go over to Nightlen's channel and subscribe and watch some of the chess breakdowns. He's got some playthroughs of Deltarune on there that if you're a Deltarune fan. Alright, well, I'll see you guys. I'm gonna end stream for you.